And we made it. What's happening, folks? GG here for the Fringe FM. Well, usually for the Fringe FM, and but this episode is not on the network. This is a, impromptu show that me and Eric decided to put on. We were having a nice long talk earlier, and he was telling me about his friend Penny, who has got quite a story to tell. What's happening to Holly? What's happening to Net? Madonna? What's going on, folks? Darren, I see you, buddy. What's happening, brother? And so, with that, real quick, a couple announcements. Well, first of all, tomorrow night, we've got none other than Michael Cramo joining us for a full evening of getting into some deep shift. So definitely look forward to that. And we do have a new sponsor, especially, relative to last week's show with Darren, talking a lot about cryptocurrency. We're now sponsored by Coinbase, which is essentially, the gateway exchange and marketplace to get into cryptocurrency. 9 out of 10 people, if you talk to them, and you ask them, where did you buy your first Bitcoins, they're going to say it was from Coinbase. And then from there, you kind of grow. Kind of like weed is the gateway drug into bigger and better things, just as well with Coinbase. And so if you go to our website, shifthappenspodcast.com, look at the top. We've got a banner for Coinbase. And if you sign up, and if as soon as you make, whether you deposit $100 or you buy $100 worth of Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ethereum or what have you, you get 10 free extra bucks. So there you go. Get there while you can status. And let's see, what else? And with that, we do have the Conscious Life Expo coming up the weekend of February 9th. We will be doing a live broadcast there, which will be a bit of a revolving door sort of show rather than a round table. We'll have a host of different speakers and figures and what have you. I'm sure Holly will be on there for some point in time. Darren's coming out to hang out with us. And God knows who else. We shall see. Eric will definitely be there. And then after that, following week, we've got the UFO Congress out here in Fountain Hills, which is almost exactly where I'm at right now. And let me tell you, the weather is beautiful. There is no reason to not be here, unless, of course, you can't. So, man, Coinbase is like the candy cigarette of crypto. Indeed, and indeed. And in fact, if you are going to use Coinbase, once you sign up with them, then go to GDAX, owned by the same people, but do all your trading over at GDAX because you pay like literally a small fraction of the fees that you would at Coinbase, but you do have to, it uses your Coinbase account. So you want to go to our link, sign up there first, and then right away get to GDAX. Now it can be a little overwhelming, trying to understand what exactly you're looking at. But just like anything, you'll get the hang of it. And man, let me tell you, it's been quite an interesting couple of weeks, and there is no better time than right this very now to get in there on some cheap rates and start doing the old crypto shuffle. And with that, I think it's time to bring on the guests. Tonight we have Eric, known as Awakening Man, Thought Shifter, Theologians of Orion. You know him by a million names, and he is the homie. And he's here, and he's the one that basically made this show happen. What's happening, Eric? Nothing is happening, so we're gonna have to get him back on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, looks like Eric dropped out, but we do have Penny here. So Penny, it's nice to meet you, and yeah. So what? First of all, how do you know Eric?
Yelling out to the world about all the crap that had been happening to me, Eric pulled me aside and said, "Seriously, do you actually want to say this stuff on Twitter?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I do."
Right on. All right, and Yeah, I think actually that was my fault not having Eric here for a second. So I think, Eric, are you still with us?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Good.
Oh, let me just throw in a couple little tidbits real fast. This is interesting, actually. So some of our listeners know, or maybe don't know, Vinnie Kocius, who wrote the book Cult Child. And she was somebody that I met through Twitter, similar to how I met Penny. And Vinny has a show called Survivor Voices, because Vinny was a survivor of a cult, and also she is very close friends with Kathy O'Brien. And just recently, in the last month, Vinny has interviewed Kathy O'Brien twice, talking about her recent husband's death 4 months ago, and also the MKUltra and so on and so forth.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. But here's what's interesting. Kathy O'Brien, they talked about marijuana, and here's what they said, and this is interesting to me, is that the reason why the federal government doesn't want marijuana legalized is because it's proven fact that it opens up the neural pathways, and therefore rendering the MKUltra program to be less effective or maybe non-effective.
No, not
in some
actually.
cases.
They use it. They engender you with hypnosis with it, because I
marijuana.
was experimented on it with that. Yes, and they also have their own unique patents.
You know,
it will be legalized.
I will tell you what. Listen. Now, growing up skateboarding and playing music, you can take a wild guess that I smoked quite a lot of herb growing up.
Precisely.
And now
Right.
listen, when I moved to LA to pursue skateboarding, something changed, because in Texas, obviously we were getting real regular weed, right? But in California, everybody's getting it from the dispensaries. All of a sudden, I went from, I wouldn't even go check the mailbox unless I was high. That's the kind of stoner I used to be. But then when I got to California, it's like I genuinely did not like the experience that you got from smoking that stuff. And for a while, I was just like,
I'm from Miami, okay? So we got our stuff straight from Jamaica. I was born in 1958, and the people that I was with were drug lords.
Oh, boy.
They were the CIA, and they did everything friggin' covertly. I skipped a yacht from Fort Lauderdale to Houston. What do you think we did on there?
What does that mean, skipped a yacht? What is that?
A 52-foot yacht. I skipped a 52-foot yacht. I was
what
17.
Skipped? What does skipped mean? What does that mean?
You assist the captain in running the boat. You steer it. You read
gotcha.
charts.
And then you steal it afterwards. No, I'm just kidding.
No, then they drop off the shit, whatever they've hidden underneath the boat. Darrell Corey had a go boat in Florida.
Wow.
I'm sure the Bushes were involved in that too, right?
Everyone was, dude. Do you know what a go boat is?
It's a super fast speedboat.
Do you know what's? Yes, in Miami Vice, right? Do you know what square grouper is?
No.
They drop the pot off in the ocean. The go boats come and get it.
Yeah, and
interesting.
The way they do it is fascinating.
Florida, we went down to Marathon, down to the Keys. They used me as a front person.
And
I didn't know what was going on, but I'm an entertainer, right?
Man, I'll tell you what, they can't. It's actually ingenious the way they would do it in some of these shipments. They would, get a boat out there, and they would drop these, these heavy weighted. They put a bunch of weights in it was kind of like an explosive, basically, that had this weed in it.
They drop them off of airplanes. They drop them off of other boats, and then if you're the CIA, you've got the police in your pocket, you've got everybody in your pocket, and then you just traverse these pathways. They're called DTOs, drug trafficking organizations.
Yeah.
I do research. I'm sorry. Go on.
Very interesting. But yeah, the way that they'll drop it off in the ocean, and these things sink to the bottom of the ocean. They set a timer for 36 hours, and then so that boat leaves, and 36 hours later, another boat just comes along, and those things explode, and then the weed floats up to the top. And
the longitude of exactly precisely where they drop the load, and then the next guy comes out. He says, "Hell," when the Coast Guard comes by, they're like, "Hell, I'm just fishing."
Yep.
Right?
It's a
but
beautiful plan.
You don't fish in a cigarette boat.
No.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So this would have been
boat.
around the late 70s. Is that about right,
Yes.
when you were on these boats?
Yes, I graduated high school in 1976. My yearbook was Genesis. I was involved in that program from the inception of my birth, and probably before that.
Is that called Project Genesis? Is that what you're referring to?
Project Genesis, and then also MKUltra. I don't know how they genetically altered me or what they did to me, but I'm fairly certain that I had already been an MKUltra and that I assassinated somebody when I was in high school.
Oh my goodness! Do you know?
Okay, let's do this.
Somebody died in high school, and when they told me that, when they said the name, I didn't know the person, but I knew something happened. I left school and started walking down to the beach. Darrell Corey found me. I don't know how. He was 13 years older than me, but he found me walking to the beach.
Very interesting.
Well, let's do this, because I mean, Jesus. Let's start from the beginning, if it's okay with you, Penny. I want to really try to walk you through the timeline. So you were born in, was it 1958? Is that correct?
I was born in Hollywood, Florida, in 1958. I ended up in Hollywood, California, because that's where my actual biological brother is.
So try to tell us what you remember from as far back as you can remember. As a baby or as a child, at what point do you start having memories, and are you realizing that things seem a little unusual in terms of what your life was like?
I just started having the memories when I came out when I left my husband and went to my brother in Chicago, and then I had been erased again down to the ground. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and I couldn't think straight for 5 minutes at a time because they drugged me with so many drugs, and I don't understand why they did what they did. They had their reasons and their methodologies. I was on 50 different drugs. I was doctor shopped, and I was on 7 different drugs that caused hallucinations because apparently the things that I write and the things that I say are prophetic.
So what do you remember as a baby? Tell me what you, just as your current memory stands right now, what do you remember as a child? Do you I mean, I don't want to get too graphic here.
I have shadow memories, okay? The shadow memories that are coming back. Like when Eric started talking to me about Sedona, Arizona, I started crying because I know that I was at the Bradshaw and I was tortured.
Are you saying that Bradshaw ran? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Wow.
I was in Sedona, Arizona for like a month. Now, the thing is, I don't have an actual memory. But when I start researching and I see the trunk that's there, I'm like, motherfucker, that's my trunk. That's my trunk.
Penny, I forgot to tell you, we can't drop F-bombs, but so if it slips out once in a while, we won't spank you for it.
Well, actually, I mean, since we're not on...
I didn't used to swear when I came out here, but then after I started finding out everything, I swear like a truck driver now.
Yeah, well, honestly, I'm a firm believer and understander of, sometimes just those are the right words to use to really emphasize what the vibe you're trying to get across. But when you're on
stage or you're in a public forum, you just don't do that.
Well, except,
inappropriate.
We're not actually on the network right now, and we're not going to, unless you would like to have this aired on the network, you can say whatever you want. But if we want to air this on the network later,
you can edit. There's a thing called edit, right?
Yeah, I could certainly. We can bleep some stuff out, but the less you do it, the less bleeping.
In this show, we'll say whatever you feel like saying is what is fine. Is basically what you're saying, right, Gigi? So just let her go and say.
I'll try and taper my bad mouth because I didn't used to have a bad mouth, but now after finding out all the stuff that's happened to me, and every day something new happens, like when the CIA got arrested, I wanted to punch the TV out because I realized that I should have known that I was in the CIA in the 80s when I was married to Steve Zenos, and he tells me that he bought blow from his pals, the Falcon and the Snowman. And they were arrested for espionage, for treason. I should have known then, but I didn't because they erased me.
Wow.
How do you think? How are they erasing you? Can you best describe the best way you can what you think they're doing to erase you?
Oh, that's one thing that I'm trying to figure out. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I know that there are implants in me. Okay, that's one way that you can be erased because it's a binary thing. They actually use the implants so that anything that I'm saying right now is going to some computer somewhere.
Well, and they can also do...
I also know that John is a twin of some sort because he's been talking to me since I was little. Somebody's been talking to me. Now I know who it actually is. It's John.
What now? Well, I know they can also, they also do that electroshock therapy. Like they exaggeratedly shock you and dose with tons and tons of LSD.
I was shocked. I'm sure that my hair when I was younger was cut short so they could put electrodes on me.
My goodness.
And when I'm in my band with Bob Bowman, who I now know is my actual brother, they're talking about being shocked with cattle prods. I thought it was a joke until I actually looked up the MKUltra project. How do they erase you? I seriously don't know. But I'm telling you right now, I was erased. For a long time, I was like, hey, did they flip and roofie me? Because no, that's not possible. You can't roofie someone's entire life. It lasts for 72 hours. So what did they do to actually erase me? Did I go into a ship with ETs, and then when they returned me, my memory was taken from me? Because that makes more sense, right?
Yeah.
How do you bring the Joseph Mengele? Because and I'm just going to bring up stuff that we talked about privately on Twitter, but how do you put that link together? Because that's fascinating to me.
Well, real quick, I just want to make one little point here for the audience, especially because I know we got a lot of new listeners here. Now, when we're talking about MKUltra, the thing about that is this is real. This is not some conspiracy theory. There are documents that we have, the documents from the Freedom of Information Act. This was a real program run by our government and the CIA. And
make no mistake about this. They are permitting me to know every piece of information that I've ascertained. I've been permitted to know. If they didn't want me to know, they wouldn't know. John would not have talked to me.
Exactly.
John would not have given me the information that he did. Plus, he talks to me in pictures. He's got a picture with him and Liza Minnelli. So I sing the song because I'm a singer. It's Liza with a Z, not Lisa with an S, because Lisa with an S goes not Z, it's Li instead of Lee. Simple as can be, see Liza. He's telling me, you're never going to figure it out, Penny. But I'm going to give you clues all the way down the road.
See, that's how they do it. They'll give you clues, but no clues don't come without some disinformation attached.
Precisely, and he denies. And here's the thing. When my brother David looks like Rolf, okay, Joseph Mengele was married to Irene. I could be Irene's doppelganger. And my brother looks like Rolf. Rolf was their son. My older brother looks like Joseph. He looks like Carl Thaddeus. Somewhere in the family there was Carl Thaddeus, changed his name. Or the alternative theory is that Eva Braun had her eggs frozen. Hitler didn't die. Hitler had a doppelganger that they burned.
Yep.
So he went to Antarctica. He also went to Sao Paulo, Brazil. My computer this last year and in subsequent years and prior years was breached from Sao Paulo a lot. I'm like, what the H? Sao Paulo, Brazil? Who lives there? And who's interested in me? And I was taken to different doctors, different military facilities, and then I kept getting taken to Jamaica. And guess what? Each time there was a doctor there, and I can't remember what he looked like.
I just want to interject. She did send me some pictures, which I'll post, if it's okay with you, Penny, in Twitter, of these doppelgangers and these what you just described as you looking like these various people. You sent me the pictures, and there's no doubt about it that you look. I mean, everything you're saying is accurate. I just want the audience to know that.
And make sure to tweet those out with the hashtag ShiftHeads.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Let me tell you right now, when you post those pictures, you're going to blow some crap up. Expect a flack to come back to you because
I'm not going to post them, man. I don't want to do that.
We're talking about political people because his son is in the administration right now. And he, I believe, is higher than the president. Do you understand?
How do you believe? Just share us. Okay, we're talking about Trump, and we were talking about this earlier. I mean, we all kind of know that our presidents are puppets. I mean, I'm just assuming this. But how is it?
Do you remember Phil Collins came out in the 80s saying that Reagan was a puppet?
Yep.
Okay, well, here's my and I tweeted out to Phil. I'm not sure. I think he might be actually following me, but you can never tell because some of the accounts are breached, and the CIA is over every single media. So if you think they're not listening right now, they are, and you know it. Okay, that's what Eric was saying. Hey, you sure you want to say this stuff on Twitter? I'm like, seriously? They've breached my phone. They've breached my Facebook. He talks to me sometimes in emails.
Yeah, and we're certainly no stranger to that.
I asked my friend, I said, hey, is this technology real? I said, he is a technologist. I'm like, when I start ascertaining all this information from Google, I actually ask a technologist, hey, is Google for real? Because seriously, the crap I'm finding out. How did they get all the information on there? And then he says AI. Well, AI is not our friend. And AI, actually, they're attributing that there is an actual society that is AI.
Yes. In fact, I actually was involved in with one of the main producers of the artificial intelligence that ended up being sold to Google. We fought tooth and nail to keep from selling it to Google, but if they get what they want, let's just leave it at that. And that was about 9 years ago.
Precisely, because they are basically in charge of the country. My feeling is that there is a group of ETs. I call God the government of defense, and Jesus' justice eternally serves us. Okay, I think the government of defense has been here and has been in control of our country. I think our presidents are not elected. They are selected.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And,
And it's my belief, John was executive producer of a film called Dumbstruck. Okay, so then I'm researching it further because I'm thinking, hey, really, I don't like this. He's also responsible for Terry Fader.
Now, who is John? Can you break it? Who is John? And is he alive now? Just tell everybody.
John's alive.
Kind of give us
John's working. He's covert. I don't want to say the name of his company. I was told by my ex-husband, Steve Zenos, that he is my biological brother. He was my agent in the 90s.
When you say agent, is that like a handler?
Well, he was a handler, too, so was Darrell Corey. But no, he was my actual flippin' agent.
Wow.
He was my agent.
and all these...
sick, but I'll just tell you this right now. I slept with him, and I fell in love with him. Because I didn't know he was my brother, right? But he knew who I was. Is that kind of evil? Yes, Penny, it is.
Now, so okay, do you have any memories of, even vague frames of memories of being at the laboratories, at the MKUltra laboratories? Any remembrance of...
I have shadow memories. When I started looking at the pictures, I actually said, is that me? It pictures of the girls with the things in their head. I'm like, is that me?
Wow. Now what? Interesting. Now, have you seen that show, Stranger Things?
Mom cut my hair every year, and I didn't know why. I didn't know she was trying to hide me because of actually who I am. She sent me to a Jewish high school. One of my friends named his kid after me. I cried when I found out. I was like, what's your kid's name? He says, Penn. I cried. I'm like, why would he name his kid after me? What do these people know that I don't know? It's like everybody knows. And we're talking about he represents everybody. And these people are so rich that they can afford to fly to Mars and live there.
Now, why do you think... Okay, we know all of this is going on, and we've known that all of this is going on. What do you think the reason... Is it just purely for science and research, or is there a deeper agenda to this? What's the goal? What is the end game?
It's war. And we are in the end game because I tweeted everybody, including the president.
But what? So war being the end game.
Tweeting game because that's an actual op.
Yes, but there are a lot of things, profit
World
certainly.
War III.
Yeah, it feels like it's around the corner, but
I saw it.
And so...
I saw it. When I traveled across the United States, I saw it. I saw it visually. I felt it in my heart. I had a temptation driving my car in Branson. Really? Because I saw the signs. And when I started seeing the signs, I told John, I'm seeing the signs now. There were 3 men in my life that I gave pocket watches to. Darrell was one of them. But there was nothing written in Durrell's pocket watch. Durrell said, "Sing me a song." So I did. I sang him "Someone to Watch Over Me." My second husband, I don't know if it was my second or my first, or because I was probably a covert wife everywhere, okay? Steve Zenos, xenotransplantation, is a genetic procedure where they transfer genetics from one species to another.
How long has that been going on, do you think, Penny?
I'm the Mrs. X. Forever, dude. I think
How long do you think that's been happening, Penny?
500 years. I think it's been strategized for at least 500 years.
You know, that's where I was going to go. You know, there is a very interesting book called Skepticism of Historical Knowledge. It's very rare. It's very hard to find. But now what the whole point of the book is saying that everything before a certain date, basically everything before when America essentially became the world power, that all history that they've written about before like the 1700s is completely arbitrarily made up nonsense, and that humans have been much more modern technologically and in all aspects for a very, very long time.
Yes,
especially
because the other Earths and the other places are like 8 billion years ahead of us. They are God to us. We are as an ant to an airplane.
Well, and here's another thing to think about, especially with him being on our show tomorrow. Michael Cramo points out in his book Forbidden Archaeology a discovery that they made in somewhere in North America, I think it was either Idaho or Ohio, where underneath a layer of undisturbed molten rock that had settled and formed there 1.8 million years ago, they dug underneath that because they were digging a coal mine, and they found anatomically modern human skeletons with actual coin fiat currency that had a humanoid on one side and some unknown language that we can't even identify because it's 1.8 million years old at least. At least.
What do you think CERN is doing?
Ooh, they're...
Or Fermilab?
Tell us.
Yes, do tell.
It's from my understanding now. I just have a cursory research in it because I just started researching it the other day. But when I research it, I find out that it's a particle accelerator. It creates antimatter, okay, dark matter, which is a real thing. 1 gram of it is 4 Hiroshimas. And CERN is producing it probably now by the ton. We don't need nuclear war. We don't need nuclear missiles. We have antimatter. And what antimatter is doing, what they're saying that CERN is going to do, they say CERN is going to open up the gates of hell.
They very well could.
Because you take a piece of wood, the opposite of the wood, okay, in our spectrum, matter, we see, we touch, we feel, we smell. They say that that wood is on fire, and you have to put the fire out in order to see the wood in the antimatter realm. That would be considered hell, right?
I follow.
Okay, well, what they're doing when they're doing this is they're creating wormholes and disparity in the time continuum, because I ended up where I am because I actually started believing in time travel. I thought John was going to come down and get me. And I started seeing it. I started actually seeing the cloaked ships in the sky because they're here. It's not like they haven't been here. They're here. And then I look in pictures, and I see them in pictures. And I'm like, what is that? Well, the antimatter, they're actually saying that they're bringing demons in. Okay, it's just another term for not necessarily malevolent entities, but entities that are being brought into this realm, into dimensions that they're creating via CERN and the particle collider and the wormholes. They're creating new dimensions.
Can I say something real quick, Gigi?
Yeah, jump in whenever you want.
Tanette just said in the chat room, wormwood comes to mind, and ironically, that's exactly what Penny told me last night, that her family is wormwood.
Me.
Talk about
that. My family is wormwood. My family's also, the Bowmans wrote X-Files. Those episodes are about me. I was married to Steve Zenos, okay? Xenotransplantation. The X-Files, the very first one, says that it was opened due to a wiki case of xenotransplantation. They found it under X in the file cabinet. I look like Gillian Anderson. My ex, who just died, looked like David Duchovny.
Man.
And I researched that.
By
the way, I did research that, and that is absolutely the truth, what she just shared. I just want to confirm that.
Well, Penny,
I did research that.
Penny, listen, I need to introduce you to my friend Richard Allen Miller, who is, for lack of maybe a better term, a genius, and he is actually...
I want to meet a genius, please.
He was also... with the work that he was doing at MRU back in the 70s is actually also what the X-Files, what a lot of the stuff in the X-Files was based on. In fact, they actually brought him on for the first few episodes to consult him, to ask him how they would handle those situations in real life. And you two would really hit it off. I have to introduce you guys. We'll do that after the show.
Chris Carter looks like Bob. I can't figure that one out because Chris Carter looks like he's actually Bob's brother because Rob Bowman doesn't look like Bob. It's weird. I don't know how to even explain it because the children are brought up in different homes. They're given different names. How is this man my biological brother? He's got a totally different name. And he looks like Mengele. And I look like Irene. So then that brings me back to the premise again. And Ava Braun having her eggs taken. Did they take the eggs from Joseph and Irene and create us?
Wow. It's all very metaphorical and almost over intentionally so to the point where it's like they're just giving you winks and nudges. You know what I mean?
There was a book that was taken from me when I was in 6th grade. I wrote it. It was called Albert the Shy Dragon. It was about a little boy named Pete, and he lived in Blueberry Forest with a dragon. It got stolen from me, and I got erased in 7th grade. I can't tell you how it happened. I looked for that book all over the place. I'd given it to my 7th grade teacher, and it disappeared off the planet. I looked to see if somebody published it, if maybe she absconded with it. Later on this last year when I'm researching it, I'm seeing that all the movies are actually true, like in Galaxy Quest, where they say they're documentaries, which they actually are. I find Pete's Dragon. Now, I refer to Darrell Corey as my Robert Redford. Guess who's in Pete's Dragon? Robert Redford.
Wow. And you know what? Just clicked to me is I'm sure you're familiar with the Mandela effect, and it just clicked. You know who's responsible? You know why that's happening?
Right.
One word answer.
CERN?
CERN. That's all there is to it.
Right. I mean, I can't research everything. I would give my information to anybody. Give my phone number to anybody. Have them call me because I already died in San Diego. I've died a bunch of times, but I died
wow.
there. Wow.
Oh, looks like we got a bad connection here.
Why do they want me alive?
Okay, there, we got you back. Okay, what did you say?
Why do they want me alive? I said I died in San Diego in a civilian hospital.
Is she breaking up a little bit still?
Yeah, for some reason somebody doesn't want you to say that.
The last thing that I remember, they were talking to me about Marilyn Monroe. Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Now repeat that one more time, because apparently somebody doesn't want you to want us to hear what you had to say, but I want to hear it.
call
Oh, shit.
Wow, it happened only when you say that. That's interesting. Okay.
The CIA is like 37 minutes late to the show.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Can you hear us?
I got an argument. How he died. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out. Are you standing still in one spot?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Let's get off that topic for a second. Let me ask you. Talk about what is a doppelganger? Because I've been researching
clones, robotoids, and synthetics. Is a doppelganger different, do you think, or what's your thoughts on that?
Refer to that term because working on at the time, that's what Mengele did. That was his gig. His whole gig was twins. By the way, there were 14 sets of twins in John's high school.
Now, is when I hear the term doppelganger used, it's usually just referring to someone that just so happens to look like you, as sort of a coincidental thing. But
right, but there are no coincidences. It probably an egg transplanted into someone's womb, because that's what a doctor can do. A doctor can hypnotize can hypnotize you when you're in the room with him. And then he goes to do a procedure on you, and he implants an egg in you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
or you're taken on a ship. They take your genetic materials on the ship. Now, when I was on the road, some crazy things happened to me. And for some reason, I was really worried about somebody collecting my genetic materials, because it was like everything started flooding back. I was activated by a pastor with words that John said to me 30 years ago. He said, "Penny, do you want to know why my parents named me John?" I said, "Not really, John. It's a common name." He says, "Well, they named me out of the Bible. There was a man sent from God. His name is John." Now, a pastor out here activated me with that. And then when I'm on the road, I say, "Hey, guess what, James? I know that the promises of God are true, but there was a man sent from God. His name is John. That's a trigger. Who are you?" He tweets me back one thing, and he writes an entire sermon regarding it. He tweets me back, "Triage."
Wow.
yeah. And, there really
There's
is...
nothing inside the message that's just on the subject line. And I wrote to this guy about the prophecy and said, "Hey, I'm going on my thing," and I didn't know why I was writing to him. And I give John 2 Bibles. I still don't know why I did that. And then when I try to pick up this one guy who's a ventriloquist, a dog ventriloquist, because my ex-guitar player tells me, "Hey, come out here to the Egyptian." And the first thing John says to me is, "Hey, I made a $100 million deal for a ventriloquist in Vegas." And I'm like, "Well, really? Huh? That's kind of strange." And then I start researching further, deeper, and I see that he was an executive producer on a movie. Then I start actually researching deep underground military. Everything leads me to something new. It's quite.
Yeah, and it's it's really interesting how, and I'm sure you've had this happen. How people do, especially when it's someone like yourself that is of, for whatever reason, of great importance to be monitored and whatnot. You'll have those days where to make an analogy, it's the best analogy I always make. Let's say you wake up one morning and you go and do your morning routine. You go to brush your teeth, but you forgot to put your slippers on, right? Usually you got your slippers on, but this morning you forgot, and when you went into the bathroom, you stubbed your toe, right? And it hurt, and it's bothering you. So anyway, you finish brushing your teeth, you get ready, you go to the coffee shop down the street, and then a random stranger comes up to you with an unnaturally wide smile on his face, says hello, and then says, probably should have put your slippers on this morning, huh? And then gives you a nod and walks off. I mean, these guys are good.
The TV actually talks to me and tells me things. My girlfriend, when I'm in Wisconsin, she says, "I can't concentrate on what you're saying because every time you ask a question, castle over there and the TV answers it." That's me. That's her. And it was true.
And, and that's actually, it's a very popular thing.
Marilyn Monroe Castle.
Yeah, I mean, and there's really, because there definitely seems to be, because you can also look at it as a synchronicity, and when you look into synchronicities and what they really are, it's essentially, it is a mechanism that has been programmed into our reality to lead you down your path of discovery. That's the whole reason why we're here, is to figure, quote, it out. You know what I mean? And
I can't even explain to you how supernaturally wiggy my life is. My life right now, it is an X-file every day. Every day, 100 things happen to me. Like the thing with the CIA guy. When I woke up and my roommate had that on the news, I wanted to punch the TV out because it brought back memories.
Man.
Because I realized I'm actually in the CIA, whether I like it or not.
Man, you know what we ought to do is we really ought to do some sort of day in the life sort of documentary, and just kind of have somebody follow you around.
I have so much stuff in my brain. I have so much stuff in my brain right now that I need actually somebody to actually ask me questions so that I can stay on target.
All right. Well, let me.
That's what Eric is for.
Okay, so one thing that I don't know if we mentioned in the beginning, if people are tuning in now, this is not to make this sound more exciting, but Penny is currently locked up in a probably a CIA facility. I'm going to have to guess. Would you guess that you're in some type of CIA facility, or?
Yes, because I researched. I'm the only one. I won't say I'm the only one that's sane, but seriously, there's 60 people in there. They have no brain capacity whatsoever. They're blithering. They're on drugs. I don't take any drugs because of what they did to me. Because I was in LSD experiments. My ex-husband who died put LSD in my food, had my vehicle stolen, and then had me drugged beyond compare. They put me on, my doctor said, you're crazy. And then I went back and I started trying to lift my head up and see what they had given me. They had gave me 7 drugs for that cause hallucinations. Why? What did they want to know from me? Because apparently the stuff that I write, it's true. It comes true. Durrell, when I left his house, I had my stuff there. He poured over everything. I was writing what I thought was a television series. It was called Bradford and Valentine. But apparently everything I wrote was true because when I actually start researching it, I end up in Branson at the Bradford Inn. And there's a temptation back in my life again because John had the temptation to sing My Girl for me in the 90s. And now the temptations are back in my life. It's like Groundhog Day.
Okay, let me just so we can get the audience clued in here. So your husband just died recently, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, and then
my first husband, after he told me that I was related to John, he died a month later. And
so you're okay. Let me just keep you on this path for a second. So your husband died, and before he died, you were not locked up. I'm assuming the two of you were living together in a home. Is that correct?
Oh no. I lived in the home. I worked 2 jobs, and he didn't work. He was retired, and he mind controlled me.
So this is all up until a month ago.
This was all
up until the last
when
month.
I
We're
left
talking
him.
30 within the last 30 days. He's died. Is that correct?
He died January 6th, and the family didn't tell me. And I'm still married to him.
So was that now somebody at that point? Did they come and get you and take you to the facility that you're locked into right now? Is that how you got
I signed myself in. I could sign myself out. But the problem is that they take every single penny of the Social Security. My husband disabled me. And then when I'm talking to him in Branson, he says, "Are you walking?" "Yeah, I'm walking."
Yeah.
I'm walking now. I was on a walker in an adult diaper. I couldn't think straight for 5 minutes at a time because they drugged me so badly.
I got
It's an experiment.
So
when I see Bob, I tell him I'm an experiment, aren't I? Was I the one that you guys decided in the family gets sacrificed and experimented on by the extraterrestrials and gets taken away, and that's how I get erased over and over? And I use that term, and then I start seeing it everywhere. And then I start seeing how I was taken to magic clubs and to different places where there's actually portals and to military bases.
Well,
and
okay,
I was always secreted in the hospital.
You brought up E.T. Let's jump into that rabbit hole. Tell us your thoughts and your feelings and what you know and understand about the E.T. Kind of go into it for us.
I didn't even want to go there because when I see Bob, I say to him, but Bob worked for NASA, right? When you work for a company like that, you always work for him. You're always on the books. And so I say to him, I know you're related to me. I know John's related to me. And at that time, I'm all about the Bible because I'm studying, right? And so I say, what do you guys want? Do you want me to worship Satan? And then I say, the only illegal alien here is Satan. And he looks at me like, seriously, Penny, just go and research. He doesn't say anything. So he looks at me like, oh, my God, you're worse than Gillian Anderson in the X-Files when Mulder rescues her from the ship and brings her out, throws her on the ice, and then the ice cracks over, and the ship goes over his head, and he's like, look. And then she looks up, and she's like, I don't see anything. And then after he rescues her, the next day she's like, there aren't any extraterrestrials, right? That's me. That was me. And so I didn't want to make that leap, but in my research, I kept leaping further and further and further. Now I believe that there are at least 167 ETs that we've identified, but there are many, many more. There's galaxies beyond what we can actually fathom in our little brains. For every grain of sand on this earth, there are 100 viable planets.
There's 500 billion is the current count, and there's over 100 trillion galaxies.
Right. So what makes us think that we're the only ones? What puny little ants are we?
Do you have conscious memory of actually having interaction with any type of ET ever that you can recall?
Well, I remember when I was little, I actually thought that a spaceship landed in the yard and took me away. And I was talking to entities when I was little.
Talk about that for a while, please. That's interesting to me.
I actually think that I was involved in the remote viewing. I think they involved me with everything. I studied in New York under Stella Adler, who studied under Stanislavski. Then I started researching Stanislavski. Guess what? He wasn't a nice man. He was a mind control expert.
What's his first name? Do you recall?
Method acting is mind control. Stanislavski, he's the originator of method acting.
What's his first name? Do you recall, though?
No.
Okay,
I have to look at it. I just know that his name was Stanislavski, and Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg created two different schools of thought, only they were actually the same school of thought. She was famous for Marlon Brando. Lee was famous for Marilyn Monroe, who was a mind control. She has FBI documents on her. She was at Laurel Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what? So was I.
Oh, yeah. She was involved in some serious shift, if you will.
Yeah, I found him. Nikolai Stanislavski, by the way. Nikolai was his first name.
The reason why she died was not because she had an affair with the president, because they used her as an MKUltra for whatever they wanted to. It's because I think she actually found out about the MKUltra project. I think that's what she was going to say.
She was definitely, she was planning on having that press conference, and she was going to expose some things, and that was definitely going to be one of them.
And guess who handled her inquest?
Who's that?
Ted Gunderson.
No kidding.
Talk about Ted, because a lot of people listening may not know about Ted.
Oh boy.
Ted Gunderson was the head of the FBI in Los Angeles, I want to say Dallas and Memphis, 3 different huge offices. He talks about the fact that his last thing was that they're terraforming the earth. They are poisoning their own people. He talks about the call letters on the planes and that he knows where they can be found. He also says, how did they get in my locked car that I'm in? Because they hypnotized him. How did they get in my locked car and poison me with arsenic? And then I get in an argument with John, and I say, Ted Gunderson died of arsenic poisoning. And then he emails me back, and he says, no, his son says he died of cancer. I'm like, yeah, he died of cancer because he had arsenic poisoning. And the coroner said his body turned black. Now, when he's talking about everything, he says, you know, I'm not a street person. I'm a person that was reputable. I worked these huge cases. I worked the McMartin case. He says, I saw that there were tunnels under there where they were secreting children out of there and flying them to the White House and then flying them back in time for their parents to pick them up.
This was in the 70s, is that correct?
Yes, I think it was later because I remember the case. I was living in California. I lived there for 40 years. Darrell Corey took me out there from New York.
this was during the Franklin scandal. Didn't he kind of jump in and after he retired from the FBI, one of his first cases that he started researching was the Franklin scandal that took the pedophilia all the way to the top of the White House.
He also researched McVeigh. And here's another thing about the X-Files. The lone gunman, 6 months before the towers went down, they did a show about it, and they actually went out and did aerial surveillance on it. And I was in San Diego at the time, and guess what? I lived 15 minutes from where the terrorists were trained.
Wow. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of fishery surrounding the 9/11 incident. Now, real quick, let's take a quick break, commercial break, and we'll be back here in just a few minutes. Now, Eric, I'm gonna set up this time to where we can actually talk off the break. So we'll talk in a second.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is Shift Happens, and we are here with the one and only Penny Shepard with a very, very interesting set of revelations about her lifelong experiences being involved in MKUltra. And we will be back here in just a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere.
I know it's a lot of...
I came to LA to make rock and roll. Along the way I had to sell my soul. I made some good friends that make me say I really want to be in LA. I took the 10 to get to Beverly, laid some rock to tape, roll out on 180. Alan and Natasha always make me say I really want to be in LA.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, TheFringe.FM, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is Ronnie LeBlanc, author of Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs, and you're listening to Shift Happens on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
are back. This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi. And we're here with Eric, Awakening Man, and Penny Shepard, a lifelong, she's been having to deal with the MKUltra and all kinds of facets that you can possibly imagine. And we're here just trying to pick her brain and trying to get a glimpse into the world of what it's like to be involved in such incredibly gnarly daily occurrences and what kind of effects this really has and trying to really get to the bottom of just why and what this means and how. Now, before we get back into it, we do have a couple of questions from the audience here. Roger Peace, first of all, he wants to know, Penny, if you remember your Twitter chats with him, and he also wants to know.
Yes, I love Roger.
Yeah, cool dude. And now he also wants to know if you know what the PSI Council is.
No. He gives me information that I researched, and I was like, when I tweeted to Roger, I cried because nobody's listening, nobody's hearing. I'm telling everybody we're headed to a civil war. I see it, and I don't know. And I think that I'm a prophet, not because I'm a prophet, but perhaps I was on a ship and I saw the events occurring in the future. And nobody's listening. And I'm shouting out, I'm saying, hey, we're headed towards a civil war, and the United States is going to break up into 4 districts. And then I find this guy who has my brother's name. His name is Michael Dwayne Fortner. My brother David Dwayne Fortner wrote a book called The Whistleblower about all of this. He tied together everything, and he was murdered in Mission Beach in 2007 because he came to California. He lived among the homeless to tell me that everyone in his life was a government plant and to tell me my life was in danger. But he was murdered. And I think that these are allegations, but I will just say that it's my feeling that my husband who died had his hand in that.
Yeah, and they have extremely sophisticated ways of having people whacked, if you will. I mean, they can.
Well, here's what I thought happened because my brother drank, and I think that what happened was he either saw Sam, he saw someone that he recognized, or they used me. They brought me down to the beach, and he saw me because he was living there, and he had been trying to get in touch with me. They enticed him in somewhere. They gave him a drink, and they put a drug in his drink that extended the inebriation. Because what they said happened and what actually happened, a little guy murdered him, plunged a knife into his spinal cord, and he died. It was with military precision. I was told that it was the Vatican. And when I was in Palm Desert playing at Casas, the Vatican came up to me, and they offered me $3,000. I was with my band Stinger. I was making $25,000. And I'm like, seriously? Do I know you? And that's the thing I keep saying over and over again, just like I did in high school when they kept erasing me. I didn't know any of my people. When I went back to look at my high school yearbook, I didn't recognize anyone.
Wow. Man, now, and I often, nobody really stops to think about, there's so many, especially in Hollywood, California, that is, Houston, Texas, Austin, Texas, right here in Phoenix. I mean, anywhere. There's so many homeless people everywhere, and you really kind of wonder, how does somebody that grew up like me end up there? And I think what we're seeing is a lot of...
I'm homeless right now. My ex told me when I left him I would be homeless. Now, how could he possibly know that?
That's exactly my point. I would bet a very, very high percentage of these are MKUltra. I don't want to call them patients, but MKUltra, unintentional participants.
They're MKUltra victims. They are
victims. Yes, that's the word.
Do you know how many people disappear in the world on a daily basis? The agreement that was made with the extraterrestrials, malevolent or not, was that they could take people and experiment on them, and they put the implants in them on their ships. That was the agreement, and in exchange for that, they give us technology. Now they're coming back. Ted Gunderson said, why are they terraforming the Earth? when I was in Branson, I talked to John for 5 minutes and I said, John, it's happening now. Apparently, the stuff that I write comes true. I write in code. I was reading in code. I actually deciphered a cipher when I was in Branson. I'm like, how did I do that? Do I know how to do that? Because apparently I'm pretty damn talented. I'm not just a singer. I'm not just an entertainer. I'm also an assassin. Oh, this should be an ad. I'm an MKUltra. Want to be one?
Wow. And, you do bring up a very good point. It is unbelievable how many people go missing every year in each country. Just in 2016 alone, 230,000 children went missing in the UK. And, of course, their children.
What happened to them? What do you think happened to them? Are they on another planet being used for slave labor? Because my conjecture leads me to the fact that we are a gold mining planet where they come for gold, and we're a slave labor force.
Yeah, I mean, even the way our modern societies are set up, even though it seems like we're free, we can kind of do whatever we want. It seems like we're given an environment to make us feel content with our slavery, is, I guess, a way to put it.
Right.
Definitely got to give a shout out to Dan James. What's up? What's happening, my brother? Haven't seen you in a minute. I hope all is well, man. And Dan says there are as many as 100,000 active missing person cases in the U.S. at any given time. And, it's not like they were just trying to...
That's not the world.
Yeah, just the U.S. And, it's not like they're just,
and that's just what they kept track of.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah. And, England, let me just say this. England is much worse. London, England, much worse than the United States.
And that's quite a statement.
Oh, underground. They're living underground. And everything underground is already mapped. They have Mach 4 or Mach 10 transportation there that can pretty much get you anywhere in a split second.
Yeah, and there's a very good David Paulides has his series called The Missing 411. Every couple of years or so, it might be every year, he goes into the most unexplainable missing cases, like just impossible situations where, a family is literally hiking together, and then they, turn around 1 second he's there, they turn around 1 second he's literally gone. This is not, it's not like...
I'm just telling you right now, dude, do not go to a national forest by yourself. Don't do it, because you're going to get snatched up and you'll be returned 15 minutes later, but you were a slave on a planet for a month and a half. And you have no memory. That's how you get away.
At least. And, when we speak of other planets and mining gold on other planets, and because, you got to think about it like this. When it comes to the people that really call the shots and run this world, not even at the top of government. I'm talking above that. Whoever's pulling those strings, they don't live in this reality here. You're not going to run into them at Walgreens. You're not going to run into them at the coffee shop, because they don't live here. They live somewhere else. Why do you think, with all the chemtrails, people always ask, well, they live here too. Why would they be doing that to themselves? It's because they're not doing it to themselves.
Here's why I think I gave these men pocket watches, because they're all time travelers. I gave Durrell a pocket watch. It didn't have anything in it. I sang him a song. CIA, okay, or the Illuminati, or whatever. But someone to watch over me, seriously, that's funny. And when I was in Arizona, he hypnotized me. You gotta laugh sometimes, right? He hypnotized me with America. Been through the desert on a horse with no name. And then Frank Sinatra hypnotized me too. He sang Old Man River 3 times. Right?
Frank's got. I researched Frank Sinatra. Beautiful, a wonderful singer, but that man has a dark history.
Oh yeah. And
and my people are also related to the Godfather, Carlo Gambino. It's in my family lineage, because I see my girlfriend in high school as I'm researching stuff, because I start writing a book. It's called Bradford and Valentine. It's actually going to be a television series. Brad Bradford's an FBI agent. Thaddeus Jones, Carl Thaddeus Mengele. I thought I was making this stuff up. Apparently I wasn't. Thaddeus Jones is his best friend. Brad falls in love with Laura the moment that he sees her. She's a DEA agent. She has a dog, a white shepherd named Cooper. He wears a vest because he doesn't want to get shot. I spent 6 months writing this thing, and I even wrote backstories for the dog, okay? And then for my psychopath, I'm actually predicating it upon Durrell, but I changed his name. It doesn't matter if I change the name. It's all written in code. And so for my psychopath, I download the Gambino family so that I can see the hierarchy because this guy works for the Magdalena cartel. Guess what? The Roswell, right after Roswell, was Magdalena, Mexico.
Yeah.
The Bradford is everything. Bradford is everything.
Okay, hold on. Can I jump in?
When I'm there, I say it's all about the AIDS.
I need to jump in. I'm going to pull a Jimmy Church here. I'm going to jump in real fast. I love Jimmy. He's the best. I sent him a tweet, so hopefully he's listening. But okay, you keep saying Bradford. I just want to understand. Are you referring to like the ties with the Bradford Ranch in Arizona, or is this a different Bradford?
That's the Bradshaw. But
Bradshaw. Okay, my bad. Okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the ranch too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to, because I lost track of what you were saying there.
There's a Bradford, right?
Yeah.
All about everything ties in. Remember Cooper, who had his own show? He was murdered too in Arizona.
William Cooper. Yeah, William Cooper.
And he.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He was taken out.
William Cooper predicted 9/11 before it happened. I don't know how many people know that, but that's a fact. You can research that.
Right. So did the Lone Gunmen. They did a show on it, and they did aerial reconnaissance 6 months before it happened.
Yeah.
There are no coincidences. They knew what was going to happen. Now, what I'm saying is that everyone in the book, when I encountered these names, the guy works for the Magdalena cartel, and in Magdalena there was another incident. It all ties together. It's creepy, but it does. It ties together. It's really creepy.
Man, and Roger just tweeted us sent us a message in Spreaker to a link. It's an article about how 500,000 elderly people go missing every single year. And
a lady here at this facility tells me how she was in the Army and she worked for the guy that did the Enigma machine. She's telling me like little bits and pieces of like, holy crap, you work for him? And then she also tells me that when she was in the military, she tried to kill herself, and I say you were triggered into that. And then she says when she was in this facility, and everyone was suspended by wires, and they had a towel across their lower genitals. That's all that they wore. She said it was quiet, Penny. I don't even know how it was fed. I said I think you were on a ship.
Now, how do you think these victims are? What do you think the selection process is? Because is there certain traits, certain genetics that they try to choose, or are they just choosing at random? Like, what's
Good question.
What's
Good
their
question.
criteria?
In my family, I trace my lineage back to Joan of Arc. So I'm like, hey, perhaps that explains why I have visions that come true, right? Because the watch that I gave my second husband, I don't know who he was, if he was my second or my first, I don't know. But the watch that I gave Steve Zenos, I traded in Durrell's engagement ring. I went into a thrift shop and I bought this other watch, which was given to the winner of the Grand Prix Bordeaux. Now, I thought I gave it to the wrong person because Durrell was a race car driver. But Joan of Arc fought that battle.
That's interesting because I haven't researched that, so I don't know. Do you have any knowledge about that?
No, I sure do not.
I research everything. Everything means everything. There are no coincidences. I told Eric, you're going to be extremely important in my life. I feel it.
Everything
does
mean
I feel when there's a tornado.
Man, and
okay, can I just let me just jump in? Well, Roger's in the chat room, and Roger's. He's like me. Well, I'm a little more. He's more low profile than me, but he is a brilliant researcher. His research on.
Drummer.
Well, yeah, but in his research on pyramids is and he's totally vetted Carl Munch or I don't know Monk. How do you pronounce his name? Do you know Gigi who I'm talking about?
Wait, who?
Carl Monk or.
Monk.
Monks. Okay, yeah. The whole
Monk. M-U-N-C-K.
I got to tell a quick story. I just got to tell the story. So about a month ago, I was in Sedona, Arizona. I was with Suzanne Ross. Listen to this. I was with Suzanne Ross. I was with Brad Olson, who's a tremendous researcher. I was with the Reverend John Polk and Suzanne's husband, and we were hiking out in the desert. We came across ancient Indian ruins. I found petroglyphs that maybe, I don't know if anyone's ever seen them before, but they were there. And we saw out in the desert a frickin' pyramid. And I took a picture of it. I go, man, that's fucking weird. And everybody agreed it was a pyramid. So I posted it on Twitter, and Roger saw it, and so he goes, "Thank you, because you're helping me with my research," and that's how Roger and I got to know each other. Because
did Roger ask you for the coordinates, the longitude and latitude?
He did. He asked me for the coordinates. That guy, he knows what's going on. Let me just say that.
He does.
Shout out
He's
to
a
Roger.
Drummer. They're all about the math.
Yeah, he's the math. It's all about the math, because you can't argue. You know what? Math don't lie. That's what Roger said. Math don't lie.
And the other thing is that they talk in binary and math. Their language, when Roger turned me on to Carl, I listened to it. It was a little dry, but he was simplistic and he explained things. And he's talking about how everything, the mathematics, all concur with. I think they added up to Stonehenge and CERN. And all the mathematics ended up in latitudes and longitudes.
Yep, and the 37 parallel or the 33 parallel?
Yes.
What is it?
My grandfather was in Egypt. I think he actually was one of the people that discovered a Stargate there. Stargate is true. NORAD has a Stargate.
Oh, I don't doubt it one bit.
Silver Dollar City also has one. I think Silver Dollar City, Branson is going to be extremely instrumental. It's my feeling that the new White House is going to be there.
You know where else?
This White House is going to get destroyed, like Independence Day.
You know where else I think one is in a little town called 29 Palms, right next to Joshua Tree. There is something there of peak interest. It's not just for no reason at all. There's the biggest marine base there.
Desert, and then one time I end up at Joshua Tree. I think before the Northwood earthquake. Was it Northwood or North Park or whatever? But I end up in Joshua Tree by myself. I end up in national parks by myself. And John is my agent, so he gets me to all these places.
Wow.
Okay, just for the audience, and for me too, you say John is your agent. Kind of tell us, what is an agent? What does an agent do? How are you? Kind of give us some insight on what you mean by agent. Please.
Yes.
Okay, most of my life, I've been a singer my whole life, a singer and an entertainer and a writer. All right. And I've been involved in musical theater. I studied in New York under Stella Adler, who was Stanislavski. And then I'm with Darrell, and he takes me to California, where John resides. I don't know that the two of them actually know one another until this last year. I figure it out. Okay, I'm 59. This stuff has been going on since I was little. I remember I was driving Darrell's. He had a Cord. And I'm driving down Biscayne Boulevard, and I get in an accident, and it tears the bumper off the car. I run into a T-bird, and the gentleman in the car gives me his card, and he says, "I'm a talent agent." That was John. Okay? And so I tell Darrell, "I'm sorry, baby. I got in this accident. I'm really sorry." And I give him the card. Now, these two have known each other since we were little. And I'm in the bathtub. He comes in. He tears the card up into little pieces, and he lights it on fire.
Wow. Now, okay.
Right? And now I know who the talent agent was. And that was in the 70s. That was in 1977. Darrell was 13 years older than me. And he came to my high school, and I met him. But I think I met him a long time before. I think I knew him when I was a baby, because when I leave Arizona, I start saying a bunch of things, right? I'm angry. I'm yelling and screaming, "Where's my birth certificate?" And then I'm yelling and screaming at him, and I say, "And you're Albert Speer's son." And then I say, "And thank you for taking care of me when I was a baby."
Okay, let me...
To my car, I'm like, "What?"
Hold on. Penny, time out. Time out, Penny. Go ahead, Gigi.
Well, I've got to ask you this. Well, first of all, real quick for the audience or anybody listening, if anybody wants to call in, we can bring you in through Skype, and if you want to do that,
that would be awesome.
Yeah,
Roger calling.
You can go ahead. Well, there's two ways you can do it. One, you can send me. My Skype ID is Bressler162. That's B as in boy, R, ESLER 162. I'll put that in the chat as well. Send me a request, and we'll bring you on. Or you can just message us at Shift Happens Pod on Twitter. Just send me a message with your ID, and we'll swing you on in there, especially if there's any special guests listening right now that want to come in. Now, also, I've got to ask you, Penny, when you're in two-part question. When you're in the Palm Desert and the High Desert, around Joshua Tree, do you feel that vibe? And do you ever just literally hear music coming from nowhere?
No, I don't hear music coming from nowhere because I'm a singer, so I actually have the music that's actually, real. But but I hear people talking to me, and I've had that my whole life, and I think John has talked to me since I was a baby. I'm going back to, I think that our eggs were transplanted in from the Mengele family. That's all I can ascertain from it, because somebody talks to me. I used to think it was God. Now I don't.
Yes, I think. Yes, I would have to agree with you on that.
Did you see the X-File? Did you see this new X-File?
Oh, you know what? I haven't had a chance to watch the new ones.
Watch it. Because it's a twin. It's a brother and a sister. And the sister's locked up in an institution. That's pretty pertinent, right? And they're playing hangman, and they're talking to one another. Watch it.
Yeah, I've watched both the episodes, and it's much darker than what it used to be like. I mean, the old X-Files was kind of playful and fun and interesting and kind of exciting. Now they're revealing dark.
Yes, they are. And guess what?
They're revealing the dark.
I think they're either done filming, but Gillian says she's quitting.
She's done.
She's quitting because she knows there's a civil war going to happen.
And
everybody knows. The people in X-Files are probably the most educated people on the face of this planet. The people in the entertainment industry, they know one another. These people know me. I'm certain that the Pentagon knows who I am because my files are in MKUltra, and Helm was, I don't know if Helm destroyed everything. Colby was murdered because apparently he had $50 million and technology that he was going to trade, and they murdered him. My brother
William Colby?
murdered. Everybody gets killed. Yes.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, yeah, and you'd be. It is a very small world when it comes to connections on that web.
Small.
It's very
small.
Yes.
For me speaking out, they want me alive for some reason. I've been told, write a book. The pastor said, we're praying for you, write a book.
I was about to tell you to write a book.
Really?
That's exactly what I was going to tell you.
Seriously? Yeah, but I'm saying, seriously, I can't prove anything. It's like conspiracy theory. The guy goes, well, a good conspiracy, you can't prove anything. Well, I can't prove anything. I can't make allegations about these people. And, Kathy O'Brien, she's not safe. There is no safe. She's not safe. And I had heard that her daughter was in an institution somewhere, and she kept asking for a guy named George. There is no safe.
Jesus.
There's no safe place.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the... Do you know which George he's talking about, Gigi?
No.
How about senior president?
Oh, my goodness. Really?
Are you kidding me?
Really?
I am absolutely not kidding you, because I've done my homework on that one, and I wouldn't say it otherwise.
I'm telling you that these people are in the administration. If you are the highest that there is in the CIA, which would make sense if you were Joseph Mengele's offspring, right?
Yeah.
Because the Third Reich never ended. They can.
No. You're right. She is right.
And the Vatican is involved in this And I'm pretty sure that I was at the Vatican because James Patterson, when I'm writing my book, I send it to James Patterson. He turns me on to Google Earth. So I'm on Google Earth, and I'm like, hey, I want to go to the Vatican. So I'm there, and I'm driving the car. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet. It reminds me of Darrell. He's a race car driver, right? So I'm driving down this, and then I say, hey, I wonder where that graveyard is. Well, it's in the Vatican. Then I get there, and I'm like, hey, I wonder where that tree is. And I'm like I'm seeing myself as a child looking down. And then I say, I wonder what John wrote on the tree.
Let's see.
And it's blurred out, so I can't see if there's actually anything on the tree. And it goes back to the Vatican because the Vatican is over, I believe, Mesopotamia. And I think that when they discovered Paul's bones, because they built it over Paul's bones, that his head was elongated.
Hold on, whose head was elongated?
Paul. The man that was buried upside down. His head was elongated.
Paul? Do you know what Paul? I'm sorry. Did I miss something? Which Paul are we talking?
Bible was buried.
Yeah, the biblical.
Oh, Paul from the Bible.
Okay. The Vatican over Paul's bones. When they went down there and they started digging, they found people with elongated heads, bones and remains with elongated heads.
You're talking about below the Vatican.
Yes, and I believe that actually that the Bible was written by the extraterrestrials because it's actually going to happen.
And
that's why.
Wow. We got to get John Polk listening. Maybe we get John Polk to call in because he knows all about that.
Oh yeah.
Our buddy John Polk, who we do a show called Quantum Hologram Matrix, and he wrote a book called Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien.
Very good book. Very good book.
I think Jesus actually got teleported out of here and then came back in spirit. And Enoch in the Bible, I think he was the only one that was taken away in a chariot, really. No, he wasn't. He was taken away in a saucer.
Oh, absolutely. And, when it comes to the Bible, and like you were mentioning earlier, there's a lot of these, what you can almost call biblical synchronicities that happen in your life during these periods of high-frequency crazy activity and events, and as a victim, and
yes, and guess who's responsible for the high frequencies? CERN.
Oh, absolutely.
And Fermilab.
And it's no I think it's no coincidence that the Bible, that's the only book that's that old that you can go into a bookstore today and buy. They make sure it's everywhere. Check into a hotel. It's right there on the drawer, in the drawer. They want to make sure you have it everywhere because when it comes to getting to the truth of the rabbit hole, if you will, this isn't stuff that nobody's going to tell you. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't just tell you. You have to figure it out for yourself. And obviously, the one of the best metaphors is the Bible because they make sure it's everywhere. And a lot of people, they think when you start bringing in these biblical metaphors, they start thinking they stop listening at that point. But no.
Thaddeus was one of the disciples. John is in the Bible.
Oh yeah, and
Carl Thaddeus Mengele. Thaddeus, he comes from the lineage of Christ. I come from the lineage of Christ. I come from the lineage of kings. I come from the lineage of popes. This pope, he looks like my dead dad.
Yeah.
Freaked me out.
And there's there's definitely no coincidence. I don't think there's any coincidence that a lot of these victims do have these epic lineages. In fact, I'm actually blood related to Benjamin Franklin myself, just to give you an idea of what I may or may not have experienced in my life. And although I can't say I was, at least I don't know that I was in MKUltra. I couldn't tell you. I don't know, but I don't think so.
I think everyone anyone with any kind of epic lineage is, I wouldn't necessarily say a target, but my feeling is that that pretty much everybody's got these implants in them and everybody's experimented on. I'm not that unique. I'm just the one coming forward and saying, hey, I found out about it. But the only reason that I found out about it was because of the Freedom of Information Act and because they are permitting me to speak. They brought me back to life, dude. There was a general in the hospital. He saw to it that I was okay. He saw to it, and I don't know what happened in that hospital. What put in me and what happened, I don't know. I don't know how long I was there. I don't know what happened. But they brought me back for a reason.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, especially in your situation, they definitely, you do have at least they feel that you have a purpose that they want you to fulfill. And,
I mean, when they want to kill me, they'll kill me.
Or
it's a binary thing. Seriously, they could stop my heart in an instant with a binary code. So if they wanted me alive, I'm alive. If they want me dead, I'm dead. So I fear nothing.
Yeah, and, exactly. You can't live in fear. You can't live in fear. You're here for what you're here for, and you're not going to leave until you're done.
The church that I went to in San Diego was Pastor David Jeremiah's. He's now in the office with Trump. Prior to David Jeremiah pastoring Shadow Mountain, it was pastored by Timothy LaHaye. Timothy LaHaye wrote the Left Behind series. When I left my husband and went to Chicago, Tim died. I asked my girlfriend when I'm in Branson and I'm prophesying all over the place, why is Branson so important to God? She says, well, you do know that the Left Behind series was situated in Springfield. I said, no, I didn't read it.
Man. Oh, and real quick for the audience, let's see. Actually, and we can bring you in over the phone as well. But you would have to, we're going to have our phone lines set up next week. But for right now, we might actually have them set up for tomorrow. But for right now, if you want to call in just over the phone and you don't have Skype, you can just message Shift Happens Pod in Twitter with your number, and we can bring you right in as well. And with that, actually, we do have a couple more minutes here. But then we'll take a quick break, and we'll come back. Now, one thing that I have been, a lot of synchronicities have been happening that kind of point to this idea that, we talk about off-planet all the time, and there's all, secret space programs, and, there's people other places that we don't have access to, for sure. Now, everybody always assumes that that's off the planet. But there's two other things to consider. One, in the planet, Hollow Earth style, or yes. I am almost convinced at this point in the research I've been doing that there is land on this Earth that the public is not aware of. That you can't see it on Google Earth. It's not on anybody's maps. There are areas here that they must be doing these operations from. It would also explain a lot. How are these aliens getting here so easily? Where are all these people disappearing to?
Under the water as well. Everything is mapped out right now. Everything in this world is linked together. They finished everything. It's all completed. Taylor did it in Antarctica.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
They mapped the entire globe.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's mapped. I don't doubt that. But what I'm saying is, I don't think they've released the full map to the public. I think there's some spots.
No, they haven't.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, I mean, we're always looking up into.
One thing that people don't understand is that television shows are real. There is an Atlantis. There actually is a Stargate at NORAD. There actually are deep underground military bases that are living there. At Area 51, they're landing there. We can't see them because they're cloaked. There are ships in the sky, and I see those ships. I don't know why I can see them, but I do. And I look at our past things. I'm even looking at pictures of the Beatles, and I'm like, holy crap, what is that in the water? Is that an entity? And I see them all over. I see them in pictures on our troops. I see them all over the place. I feel things and I know things. I tweeted out to SpaceX. I went in and I started looking at the schematics. I don't know if it was January or December or whatever, but all of a sudden I start looking at the schematics of the Falcon, and I'm like, I tweet them and I say, seriously, dudes, because they're saying, hey, my payload's fine. I'm like, seriously? Because and unless your payload is a human being, check your payload. And then I say, and check this too. And I circled some fuel thing, and then I tweeted out to them, and then the launch gets stopped. And then the next couple of flights, there's something wrong with the payload, like with Zuma. And then I actually start researching, and I find out their history is pretty poor, and that those have been some problems. Or like when I say the year before, I say Korea's going to bomb Guam. I'm saying it over and over again. I'm saying, hey, there's going to be a civil war. I see it. I saw it when I went across the United States. I saw that FEMA's already in place. These are things that the X-Files talked about, I think, in the 90s. And I actually see it. Like the war is going on. I see trains full of bodies. I see places where they dump the bodies. I see the food disintegrating because Monsanto has all the seeds in Antarctica. They've mapped the whole world, and they have all the seeds. And now Monsanto has them in Antarctica in a place that's protected like from nuclear war. And now if South America says, guess what, we don't want to do this, then America's going to say, or Monsanto's going to say, well, guess what? Y'all aren't eating for the rest of your life because we're not giving you any seed. And my brother David died because he was a water reclamation expert in the Army, and he worked at Hyperion, and he saw what they were doing with the water, which gets privatized. Everything gets blown up. The bridges get blown up.
Man.
We have earthquakes and fires. We have viruses. And it's happening now, not tomorrow. It started. We bombed Syria. The war already started, and no one sees it.
These are definitely.
I'm a prophet of doom. I'm sorry.
But you're making some good points, though. I mean, if you look back in history at what was going on before these wars started, look at what sort of conflicts were going on, look at what sort of vibes were going on, and then compare that to now, it wouldn't be very surprising. There's certainly a lot of Americans that are very sick of a lot of Americans, if you know what I mean. And
right, because here's the thing. If you have a puppet government, what their job is to actually feed the warmongering machine by creating dissension and chaos and engendering a global world war, because that is the agenda.
Yeah.
And so everyone's yelling, hey, Trump's a crappy president. He's biased, right? It's not about him. It's not about black. It's not about white. It's actually about we saw the Civil War starting when Trump was getting elected.
Yeah, Trump has
green. It's about ETs, and it's also about green, which is money. And we will have a new currency, and I don't think it's going to be Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree. And Trump has nothing to do with nothing. He doesn't even doesn't even decide what he eats for breakfast, much less who he's going to war with. I guarantee you. And Roger's in here saying 99% of the moon is unseeable. Same on Mars. And you know what? I think I'm starting to. There's something about the moon. Okay, now
because it's already colonized.
Well,
underneath, you can't see it, and on Mars you can actually see the colonies.
Yeah, and the thing with the moon is, when you look at other moons and other planets, they are rotating and orbiting just like the planet that they're orbiting is rotating and orbiting. Now, our moon does the same. It is rotating and orbiting. Yet, it's the only one that at the same exact side of the moon is always facing the Earth. It doesn't ever change,
right.
Not even a millimeter. Now, let's think about this for a minute.
It's possible that it was created, but actually on the dark side of the moon is where they say that it's inhabited, and that's where in the conspiracy happens, where they actually say, hey, we faked the moon landing. Well, perhaps we did, because when they got there, they saw ships there, and they were like, what the H? We see there's actually someone here. So they edited it, and they fixed it.
And you know what?
Because the world wasn't ready to understand that there are other worlds that are populated.
Okay, see, here's the thing with the moon. So the impossibility if it was just randomly rotating and orbiting while the Earth is randomly rotating and orbiting, while both of them are orbiting and rotating in that fashion as well, the odds of this that's like the kind of odds of flicking a quarter on the table, right? You flick it and it's spinning around, and then you flick another quarter, and then that quarter starts spinning around, and so they're both spinning while they're spinning, but yet getting it at the exact momentum to where the same side is always that is mathematically impossible. But you know what? So it's not.
Roger, he'll tell you what the coordinates are.
It's not just gravity. I'm thinking, okay, let's take those quarters. Now, what if you put a magnet on each of those quarters, and then you did that? See what I'm saying? I think
right.
that
right.
moon the side is always facing us. It's not by coincidence. It's definitely on purpose, and definitely for some very good reasons or very bad reasons, however you want to look at it.
Here's a couple creepy things that happened when I was out and about. One, I saw two suns. And the other one, I actually emailed Bob when I was at this church out here, and I look up in the sky, and it looked like somebody put a green magic marker and wrote something on it. And so I email him. I say to him, fix the moon, would you guys? What the H? What'd you do to the moon?
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go ahead and take another break. Now this time, I think I have figured out a way where I can talk to you guys during the break without. I think I figured it out here. So. Hang tight, guys. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. This is Shift Happens, the surprise show with Penny Shepard and Eric Thought Shifter, or Awakening Man, however you want to refer to the brother. And with that, we'll be back here in just a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Well, it sounded cool.
It kind of sounded like a little reverberation when I was in Mexico with the flamingos, and they had the Abbey Road little reverb chamber.
So when do you
Once upon a time, at the foot of a great mountain, there was a town where the people known as happy folk lived. Their very existence a mystery to the rest of the world, obscured as it was by great clouds. Here they played out their peaceful lives, innocent of the litany of excess and violence that was growing in the world below. To live in harmony with the spirit of the mountain called Monkey was enough. Then one day, strange folk arrived in the town. They came in camouflage, hidden behind dark glasses, but no one noticed them. They only saw shadows. You see, without the truth of the eyes, the happy folk were blind.
Falling out of aeroplanes and hiding out in holes, waiting for the sunset to come, people going home. Jump out from behind them and shoot them in the head. Now everybody dancing the dance of the dead, the dance of the dead, the dance of the dead.
In time, the strange folk found their way into the higher reaches of the mountain, and it was there that they found the caves of unimaginable sincerity and beauty. By chance, they stumbled upon the place where all good souls come to rest. The strange folk, they coveted the jewels in these caves above all things, and soon they began to mine the mountain, its rich scene, fueling the chaos of their own world. Meanwhile, down in the town, the happy folks slept restlessly, their dreams invaded by shadowy figures digging away at their souls. Every day, people would wake and stare at the mountain. Why was it bringing darkness into their lives? And as the strange folk mined deeper and deeper into the mountain, holes began to appear, bringing with them a cold and bitter wind that chilled the very soul of the monkey. For the first time, the happy folk felt fearful, for they knew that soon the monkey would stir from its deep sleep. Then there came a sound, distant at first, that grew into cacophony so immense that it could be heard far away in space. There were no screams. There was no time. The mountain called Monkey had spoken. There was only fire. And then, nothing.
Oh, a little town in USA, the time has come to see. There's nothing you believe you want. But where were you when it all came down on me? Did you call me out?
We're back. Might like you better if we slept together, indeed. This is Shift Happens, and sorry for the delays in the break there. Yeah, I got some new equipment set up here, and just when you think you know everything, it turns out you, in fact, do not. So sorry about that, folks. So, but yeah, we'll be here for the. So here's our last segment for the evening. Perhaps, I don't know. We actually could just keep going until tomorrow morning. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. But with that, let's see. Where were we? Oh yeah, we were talking. Oh, we had a bunch of chats go by that I haven't seen here. What's happening, Jordan? What's happening, brother? And yeah, Jordan McAvoy, man. I need to make out up there to California sometime soon. Or not California, Colorado rather. Gotta see you guys play. Man, if you guys haven't checked out his music, go to infiniteempiretheband.com. Get there while you can status, for sure. And with that, Eric, take us back on the timeline wherever we may have left off on that some time ago.
Can you guys hear me right now?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. This has been a wild ride down the rabbit hole, and it's almost like I don't know. I was telling somebody, I think I was telling you earlier that when I'm doing research, I'll open up a tab. I'm sure everybody does the same thing, and then before you know it, you got like 18 tabs open because you're down everywhere. And then all of a sudden you're like, hold on, I like that tab like an hour ago. Which one was it? And then you try to figure out what was I trying to discover an hour ago. Let me go back to that.
Right, and then Roger or somebody like that tweets you, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah, even though Twitter is censored, I have actually been shadow banned. I know that to be a fact because I checked, but I don't care. I mean, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met. There's a lot of people that are very living some amazing lives, very intelligent people.
Right, and we're yelling and screaming out there. When I get mad, I tweet. That's what I do. When I find out a new thing, I'm like, damn it. And I tweet it, and I post it on Facebook, and I'm like, pay attention! And no one's listening, man. They're all asleep. They're blindfolded, and they're asleep.
Okay, well, you are shadow banned. I don't know if you know that. Do you know what that is?
I was? No.
Yeah, you. In other words, your tweets are not being seen by the mass public. The only people that see your tweets are the people that follow you.
Of course.
Yeah.
So don't have your feelings hurt.
Yeah, I mean they have.
I didn't think the world was seeing him anyway. I was just happy just to get the stuff out.
No, you got to put it out there because somehow I don't know how I saw your tweet and you saw mine somehow, and then Roger, it's the same thing. It's like every now and then they sneak in there, and then you realize, oh, this guy knows what's going on, or this lady knows what's going on.
Right, because I'm following like 4,000 people. I have like 1,000 people that are following me, but I didn't care if anybody followed me. What my mission was to actually ascertain information and to find somebody that would actually give me information. Now, I'm giving you some information, but you're giving me information and more things and validation and verification that these things that I'm speaking of are actually true, which I know they are anyway, but you're validating them.
Exactly. Beautiful. Well said.
Yes, and in fact, back before the days of shadow blocking, they actually used to just straight up take your post. There was one time back when I was working with that artificial intelligence company. There was a time where I got pretty riled up about what was going on, and I just went on a Facebook, just like post after post after post after post, like, F this, F that, F you, like this guy's corrupt, blah, blah, blah. And then there were two specific posts where I dropped a couple of names that right away I realized, like, oh, I better take that down real quick. And by the time I scrolled back up the page to delete them, they were both removed, and in place it said this post has been removed by the Facebook staff. Before, quicker than I thought of it, in like 20 seconds, they were already on top of it and had them pulled down.
Because Facebook is actually in California. I forget what street it was on, but it's all about the streets, too, because the streets are named after my family. and I forget. I think it was on Hacker Lane. I think that's the actual address of Facebook. I think it's on Hacker Lane.
That would
see,
make
and I
want
to say when we're during commercial, I was talking off the air with Penny, and I told her that based on my research, like a lot of the things that she's sharing, these are all triggers, and I don't even know that she was aware of that. But these are all MKUltra triggers.
Because the reality is that I know I am full of triggers. That in MKUltra, when I tell people I was hypnotized on my phone and that's how I ended up here, they're like, seriously, how did that happen, right? But that's the whole nature of the covertness of the MKUltra Monarch project, and spun off of that are thousands and thousands of other covert ops. And so what they do is you're in your bedroom at home, your phone rings, you're hypnotized on the phone, you get up, you go out, you have sex with somebody, you kill somebody, you drive back, you go back in bed, you wake up, and you're like, hey, I need a cup of coffee, and you don't have any memory of what you actually did. That would be called being erased.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, and it definitely, I mean, it really happens more often than anyone would. I mean, it's happening right now, literally. And you know what else is happening right now, actually? Roger just posted in the chat a link to an NBC News article. And I'm not kidding you. The title of the article is, "A Space Station is Falling to the Earth. Here's where it could land."
Really?
And then they followed up by saying, "There's no need to panic, though." Are you sure?
Right.
Are you sure about that? Because there's a space station falling to the Earth. I mean,
you know, I look at some of the technology, and I just sometimes I'm just like, seriously, NASA, you guys can like actually teleport from one place to another. You've got patents on the suits, and why are you using this old crap and showing the public all the old crap? Because you don't even use that to travel from planet to planet.
Yeah, it's so obvious.
It's a show.
It's so obvious too. I mean, because think about any other type. First of all, I'm convinced they use better technology than they even told us they used in the 70s. First of all, I really doubt that they went to the moon by strapping a human to a firecracker.
My guitar player, Mark, told me about things that were going to happen 20 years in the future.
And, you know, yeah, see, that's the other... Okay,
can I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
because you just said patents. And there's this guy on Twitter, and you need to... I'll send you the links.
I'll put it out to the
his name's
speaker
RJ Tannenbaugh, and all this person does, I don't know if it's a man or woman, is post patent links. And I learned so much.
And nobody watches, right?
Ooh, that's interesting.
And all the cloning, all the patents on space. I mean, you guys, I swear to God, the patents are done. They're done. Everything's already patented. It's there on the record. You could find it. And
wow.
It's legit.
Okay, now what's his Twitter name?
So if we go back to Mengele, whose whole primary focus for Hitler was cloning, he did it.
He did do it.
He cloned. Yes, he did.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because this is a topic that I wanted to get into just a little bit. I did some research in Russia. You know, everybody talks about Germany and the Project Paperclip. Well, let me just tell you, the Russian Bolsheviks between 1870 and 1930 created a whole nother robotoid race. Right. And they used that race to infiltrate. And nobody knows about this, and I'm not going to go too deep into it right now, but there is so much happening.
Star Wars is real. Star Wars is real. I'm telling you guys, movies are real. Now, if you say that there's a psychiatrist here. Guess what? When I tell him some of this stuff and some of the prophecies, he looks at me and he just looks at me, and I'm like, "There's no help for me, is there? There's nobody I can go to." He's like, "No, Penny, because you're not crazy, right?"
Did he actually say that? He actually said that.
Yes.
I love it.
Wow. Now
that's prophetic right there.
They know who I am here. Where I am, I researched the facility, and it's pretty bad because it goes back to Patterson and Peterson.
Oh, wow. Patterson.
Air Force Base. They're the same name.
Yep.
It's the same name.
And we all know what goes on
There's
there.
a Patterson Air Force Base in Guam, and we sent bombers there on the 16th. Why?
My goodness.
Because Korea's going to bomb Guam.
Yeah, you know, I've got a good buddy of mine in the Special Ops program in the Marines, and I can actually, I can confirm a lot of what you're saying here. Or I should say that
I know, because my brother lived in Guam, and he worked for the NSA.
I mean, as far as the plans go, now, are things going to go according to plan? Who knows? But probably. Now, wait, Eric,
The
real
actual
quick.
question is when.
That is the question.
And I'm telling you now.
Well, and that
It's
leads to
happening now.
that leads to the second question: is where's the place to be, or where's the place not to be? Rather, where should we
On
pack up and
Earth.
camp out?
That was the best line of the night. Where's the place not to be on
extremely
Earth?
copiously wealthy. Hit yourself a ride to Mars. Find a Stargate. Get off of this planet.
All
We're
right.
toast.
And you know what? Popular Science magazine just came out with a massive article, not an article, the entire magazine was donated to we are going to be living on Mars in 2035, and they painted the
Really?
whole
Because we
entire
already
picture.
are.
Yes, but you know what? They always tell us things 50 years later.
Right.
So now they're ready. What they're doing is they're preparing the public consciousness
Exactly.
for the reality that already
Right.
exists.
Corey Good is talking about the Disclosure Project. Now, I don't know who said they talked to him and they emailed him and he said some things that weren't true. Regardless, the guy's got some solid information, and the time is now for disclosure, because there are more and more people that are actually becoming aware, those that are not completely stupefied and sleeping, and that will always be sleeping, and they're going to be fodder, and they're going to end up in internment camps. I'm hoping I'm not one of them, but you never know, right? You know.
No, you're
feel
right. You're talking what, like 20 to 30 years from now? I'm thinking that's my timeline. What do you think?
I don't. I think within the next. It's happening now, and I think within the next couple years.
Wow, that is not
term.
good
Trump will
news.
get a second term, and it's with him in office, because the prophecy that I had was that John, Darrell, Tommy, Johnny, and Ben Carson, there's a tornado in Branson. It rips up the town. Now, in 2012, there was already a tornado in Branson. It skipped the House of God, which is like, what? And it hit the Temptations venue. Legends. I don't know. These are all things that are in my history. But the tornado comes, it rips up the town, and Ben Carson is now the head of HUD. Okay, when I was in Branson, people were living in run-down hotels out there, and the musicians are working for tips. So Ben is now the head of HUD. So that makes sense. Now I see there's national law, martial law is declared, and that's the inception of the Civil War, because Branson was the Bible Belt, and it's the epicenter of the United States.
Man, yeah, that's one thing I'm really not looking forward to is martial law, which, yeah, that's really sketchy.
I just got to say this. If you're in Arizona, for example, and you're near Indian land, in my opinion, that is the safest place to be, because the Indians were here before any of us motherfoyas, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's also portals on their land. That's why the land is sacred, because there's ETs buried there.
You know, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there's got to be some good reason, doesn't there?
That's why they say don't go on our Indian burial grounds. It's sacred, because they don't want anybody digging up people with weird heads and stuff.
Have you been to
Because
Sedona
they
yet,
protected
Gigi?
them.
Not just yet. I'm waiting for
Gigi,
everybody.
Okay, when you go to Sedona, Gigi, and you see those red mountains, your life is going to change. And I'm
Yes.
not talking trash. There is a mystic, ancient reality, period, about Sedona, Arizona. I don't care. I mean, I'm not just banging the drum here, but that is the reality.
Yeah, no, let me tell you, that's been a lifelong bucket list place of mine because, we were talking on the phone earlier about the Celestine Prophecy books, and which are absolutely, it changed my life more than anything ever possibly could. And the second book in the series takes place and is all about expressing exactly what you just said about Sedona, and actually goes into how and why it is, why the energy there is the way it is, and it actually ties in with Shambhala.
When Eric talked to me about Sedona, I actually broke down and started crying, and I didn't realize that it was going to have that much of an impact on me. But I was in Sedona several times for weeks on end. I played out there. I walked alone out there. I climbed Red Rock. I was in a band house, and I was erased there. And when I see pictures of the Bradshaw, I'm like, I look and I see the trunk, and I'm like, that's my trunk. That's mine. That green trunk, that's mine. And there's an army hat on it. And then I look, and it says, do you want to believe? That's the X-Files. And then
okay, hold on.
The refrigerator.
Hold on. You're talking about the pictures that I sent you?
No, I'm talking about my own research before I got anything from you.
Okay,
Wow.
I did tell you guys, I don't know, I think I told you guys that I actually was at the Bradshaw Ranch about a month ago, and I
That's
snuck
right. I was
underneath
wondering
the
who was telling me
videotaped
about that.
the entire ranch.
Yeah, that's Eric for you. That's Eric.
Yeah.
My question is, what's under the ranch?
I'll tell you what, I have a theory on what's happening out there, but the reality is what's beautiful is you can camp there literally 100 yards away for free for 2 weeks. So, and I plan to go out there. I recommend you have a buddy with you just in case, because I got to tell you guys a story. Okay, there's a guy that a lot of people haven't heard about. I met this guy in Sedona. His name is Tom Dango. He's 73 years old. He was a researcher in the 90s, so before our era. And I met this guy out there, and he took me and the Reverend John Polk on a hike up to this mountain that we had to cut through brush and go through these little trails that weren't really trails. And I'm like going, fuck, man, I hope we don't get lost. And so finally we get to the spot, I swear to God. And I what was cool is I was taking pictures the whole way. So if I go back there, I'll be able to, if I get lost, I can look at the pictures. But we found these, he took us to this area.
Everything's going to be changed.
No. There's this petroglyphs out there. I took pictures of petroglyphs with ETs painted on the caves, and it was amazing.
And John showed me all of those pictures just a couple of weeks ago, and I can attest to that. They are some pretty trippy images.
And then one thing was the coolest thing to me personally. So we're there, we're taking pictures. All of a sudden, Tom Dango reaches down into the sand. He says to me that, you know why there's sand here? I go, no, why is there sand here in the fucking desert? And he says, because...
That is a good question. Where is all this sand? He says,
because the earth we've gone through this whole revolution like 5 or 6 times. In other words, what we're going through right now...
Did you think it was covered by water?
Yeah, probably.
There was an ocean there at one time.
Exactly. There you go.
Right.
There was an ocean there, because you could tell, and he's pointing to me, see how the lines are across the caves and across the rock? He goes, every inch represents like 1,000 years. And then you do the math. If these things are like millions of years old, millions. Anyway, and then so he reaches in the ground and he pulls up this thing that's like this twine. I don't know what it was, like whatever it was kind of a weed thing, and it was all woven together. You can tell that a human wove it together. And he says, you know what this is? I said, I have no idea what this is. He goes, the ancient Indians used to use this, and they would ferment it, and then they would suck on it, and that's how they got high. I'm going, are you shitting me? He goes, yes. So I go, can I have it? He goes, yeah, you can have it. And I have it. It's in my house. I got a freaking little, I'll show you guys. You'll see it, Gigi. I'll show it to you. It's pretty cool. There's little things they made to get high back in way back in the day.
Awesome.
Here's another thing. Theaters, like the Mirage, I'm pretty sure there's a portal there. It's called the Mirage, okay? And there's underground tunnels that go from the hotels to the underground facilities that are in Nevada. And they extend all throughout to all the other states. We're talking about underground. I lived in Vegas, and I don't exactly know why. I lived there, and some stuff happened to me, and I'm like 99% sure that I was secreted underground at Area 51, because when I come in this facility, I feel death here, and I'm walking kind of sideways. If we ever meet and you see me start walking sideways, or I get my stress ball, something's going on. And I'm starting to walk a little sideways because I feel the death that happened here, and then I feel like I'm at Area 51.
You know what?
I talked to one of the guys here who's in the military, and he says, yeah, it does look like Area 51.
Wow. I mean, yeah, in certain cities, there are... Okay. So, man, this keeps coming up. Back when I was working with that artificial intelligence corporation, one night we were driving through Hollywood and...
California?
Yeah, West Hollywood in California. And so we're driving by, and because there had been a few nights recently where when we were heading to the office, we saw these streets kind of completely cornered off with heavy military surrounding it, and it looked like they were doing tunnel work or something. Or it kind of, you might even think they were just shooting, blocking it off for a movie set if it wasn't for the tanks and heavy artillery there. Now, and this is in the middle of the city, right? This is a couple of blocks
off. Why the 76 station got blown up.
Man, I'm telling. Okay, so here's the thing. It's not that I know anything or that this guy knows anything. It's the thing that really makes you start scratching your head is the fact that this guy, who is one of the 3 owners of the corporation that developed the very artificial intelligence that Google uses today, with all of their tomfoolery that they use with it.
Right.
I mean, this guy, with the level that he's thinking and what he knows about the world and who he knows, is sitting here telling me, you know what they're actually doing right there? They're keeping them from coming out. I'm like, what do you mean them? And he just kind of nodded and said, them. And that was the end of that conversation. So, when you have guys of that stature saying things like that, you really gotta wonder. You gotta wonder.
You know about the Getty, right?
The Getty.
The Getty in L.A. I think it's called the Getty.
It sounds familiar. You're talking about the creature?
No, it's a museum.
Oh, okay. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Nope, never been there.
Well, apparently underneath there is level after level after level underground, and that's where they have actual all around the surrounding area, the houses, all the expensive houses, they go down, tunnel down into the Getty, where they've got doors that are like nuclear doors, and they will close when this happens. The doors will be closed, and nobody will be able to get in. And there's 14 levels, or maybe even more than that, underground, and there's condos under there.
Oh, there's absolutely no doubt that they're doing that. I mean, I haven't found anything, but archaeologists have found over in Turkey, in those parts of Eurasia, literally underground cities that go down about 11, 12, 13, 14 floors that they estimate could sustain up to 100,000 people. There's another one that was 50,000 people over.
I'm telling you, they're living there now.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's not for no reason at all that all worldwide, no all countries don't agree on anything ever. Like, not every country, but every country has agreed to make it illegal to go exploring caves now without some sort of authoritative supervision. You can't just go
like
into
the
a
Grand
cave
Canyon?
now. Yeah, you can't just go in there now. Well, why is
like
that?
Silver Dollar City. When I'm all about the Bible and stuff like that, I tell this guy, hey, what's up with Silver Dollar City? He says, well, Penny, it was a bottomless cave. I'm like, a bottomless cave? Who lives in a bottomless cave? Satan? No, not Satan. Our covert faction, which we may allude is Satan, but no, a bottomless cave. And they say there are child sacrifices that go on down there because we're paganistic, and that's just another one of the elements. But a bottomless cave, no, there's a Stargate, and that bottomless cave goes to other caves, and there's people living down there, and there's a whole life going on down there.
Okay, can I jump in real quick?
And yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is very important because I have a lot of respect for the Native American Indians because I've researched their history, and those people, they talk about the ant people, and they talk about when the end of their world ended, we're talking millions of years ago, whenever the last time it ended, they took the Native Americans, the ant people, into these caves, into the inner earth, and they survived there until the earth changed to a point where they can emerge and reemerge. That's exactly what happened.
Absolutely, I don't doubt it.
The Indian people are probably the most honest people on this planet. They talk about the spirit god, and that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And the Chekina, I talked to, Jesus. Anyway, the Chekina is an alien. That is what that represents for anybody that doesn't know that. That's what it is.
Yeah, and okay, and well, real quick, Roger actually made an interesting comment. He said, go search L.A. underground caves and reptilians. It's funny he says that because a couple of days after that drive with one of the owners, one of the other guys there, Mike, I was asking him about, I told him what Roger told me. I was like, man, like, was he joking? Like, what's he talking about? And then he said, no, he's talking about the reptilians. So that is interesting that Roger just said that.
Reptilians, the Dracos, which I'm wondering if that's why I wrote Albert Decide. It's actually about a Draco, and maybe the Spears were actually Dracos because they say that the Anunnaki, who genetically altered us, their language is similar to the German language.
Man.
Interesting.
And
okay, I want to bring up a topic, totally off topic, but
let's do it.
Okay, and I just want to say up front that I am not a prejudiced person by any means. I was once married to a Jewish woman. I, as a young person, had black girlfriends. I have no problem with any race, Indian, Mexican, whoever, whatever. But what is it? Do you believe the Jewish are a race or a people, and how are they tied into all this? I'm trying to understand the lineage of all this.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it does have everything to do with everything, because I find out that my actual lineage is Jewish. I was Catholic, Christian, right? I thought it was because they were good entertainers, and then I find out that I'm related to my agent, to the Baumgartner name, but that's not even a real name either.
Huh. So, let me ask you this, Penny. Did you, now when you say, you're in music and in the entertainment industry, which part, were you in the Los Angeles industry?
Yes, I lived there for 40 years.
Exactly.
And one of my mentors was Tony Scott, Ridley Scott's brother. And at one point, they must hypnotize me or something, because I remember going to Aesop's Fable, and when I was with Tony, I listened to my counselors, I listened to my mentors, I listened to what they said, and he said, when the Scotti brothers approach you, unless you want a horse's head in your bed, don't sign with them. Then I find out that actually Carlo Gambino is one of my grandfathers.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing about especially the Los Angeles, the Hollywood scene is if you want to see how weird life can get and how trippy and bizarre things really are, go get in the music industry for a little while. And then when you've had enough, you can go away, move away, and then when you get bored of regular life again, get right back in the music industry, and it's there if you want it.
The people that were in my life are historic. The people that were sent to me are historic. And I look back and I'm like, hey, why was Giorgio Moroder there? Why was, when I was 17, why did Gary Shandling come down, meet me on the beach, and tell me I look like the bionic woman because I was the bionic woman at 17? Because I'm a government asset. And
you are a female super soldier is what you really are, right?
I still am. But here's the thing. When I went out on the road, I actually met super soldiers that, seriously, these guys are, they're mercs and they don't even know it. They will work for whoever tells them what to do because they're turned on and they're turned off, and they're huge, and they grab your hand, and they're 10 times stronger than I am.
Talk about that more, because who's that guy? There's a few guys. One guy died recently. I think it was Spears, and there was another guy. I can't think of his name. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? There's super soldiers that have been on YouTube. They talk about this.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
What was really creepy is that my ex takes me down to Comic-Con. Now, the funny thing about Comic-Con is that all the stuff that they're writing is true. That's the con. Okay, and so he takes me down there, and I start getting weirded out because I'm actually hearing all the things that people are saying in my head, and I have to go outside. Well, he comes back, and he gets me the signature of the guy that plays the super soldier on the X-Files. I don't know why. Now I know why.
Wow, okay.
Oh, it's heavy stuff, Gigi.
Yeah.
That's why I told you to put the E on the Spreaker.
Yeah.
E for explicit.
Yeah. Oh, we always do. We always do.
This is illicit and explicit information.
Man, and so like I mentioned before, a good friend of mine, and not just a good friend, he is my best friend. He's in the MARSOC program of the Marines. Shall remain nameless. Now. Just to give credibility to what I'm about to say here, not only is he in the MARSOC program, which is essentially like the Navy SEALs, but in the Marines, and they make the Navy SEALs look like choir boys compared to what they have to go through, right? I mean, these are the guys, and so now we had, I hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and I went out to Long Beach to go stay on the base and hang out with him for a week. And first of all, let's say things got so gnarly that I actually left earlier than planned, for one. For two, he was telling me, because we talk over the phone, but he can't talk about a lot of things over the phone. So we actually had a chance to talk in person and get to share all of this information that we've discovered over the years, like we never had a chance to before. And he was telling me essentially the super soldier training, some of these exercises isn't even the right word, some of these ordeals, these traumatic beyond these things that they have to go through in order to make it and be in the MARSOC program. You literally wouldn't believe what these guys do. It is unearthly in some situations, and he even showed me a piece of technology that they had, which I feel like it shouldn't be too big of a deal, right? Okay, so it's this helmet you put on, and it essentially it's got this earpiece in it, and basically what it does is you can tell it where to listen to from a distance as if you were there. For example, you could be in a bunker underground, separated in a box that's with 30-foot wall borders around it, 30 feet concrete thick surrounding you on all sides, and you could be a mile away. With this thing, you just tune it to the coordinates of where you want, and it can hear you even down to a whisper. And I got to use it and test it, and this is real. I mean, this is some, and they've had this kind of stuff forever. I mean, walls are literally paper thin today. They're not even walls anymore. It's just air that you can touch at this point. I mean, they can really hear anything. And not only is he in that program, he actually got the Gung Ho Award, which means out of all of the people in the MARSOC program, they all voted that my guy was the number one. Was the number one dude in the whole program. And yeah.
Did he say that he was genetically altered, or he couldn't say?
I'm gonna go with I don't know.
Supposition.
Well, here's what I'm gonna predict. The guy probably shared things with Gigi, but Gigi cannot verify or vet it, so he's smart to say, because he doesn't know. I mean, I could tell you, like, for example, the story that you're telling us tonight, Penny, I personally believe, but there's people out there that are not going to believe you.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care who believes me and who doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not my concern. My concern is to disseminate the information so that those people that actually have ears to listen perhaps might start researching.
Yeah, and that, I mean, there's, for every person that doesn't care to even hear or believe any of this, there's another person that needs to hear it. Exactly. But there are people that not only want to hear it, but they need to hear it right on exactly when they're hearing it. This is the
right, because
synchronistically.
They're like, hey, is this my life? Did this actually happen? Did I actually? And here's another thing about being in the dimensional realities, because there are time dimensions and different realities. If you were secreted into a different dimension or a different reality, that's why you have a shadow memory, and that's why you were erased.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely a fact.
And CERN is creating these.
Yeah. People really, when people think of CERN, they think like, oh, they're doing dorky, sciencey stuff. Okay. And that's all they think of it. Nobody really pays attention.
That Pharma Labs, according to the people that I know that are in the region, they're like, oh, I think it's shut down. No, it's not. Because O'Hare was saying that they're actually seeing the ships, and it's causing problems with their radar with their planes.
Talking about the O'Hare airport.
And Turkey just had an accident where the plane failed and it started going into the Black Sea. So I'm like, hey, is there a particle collider over there? About 9 hours away. Yeah, there is. And there's over 30,000 of them in the world.
Wow.
We don't even know half of it. That's just what they're letting us know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, exactly. That's just what they're letting us know, which means we don't know nothing.
Exactly. It means that what we are availed to our primitive researching techniques, they're permitting us to know. They're giving us the information. To those that want it, seek and ye shall find. And the truth will set you free. First, it's going to piss you off. Eventually, it may set you free, or it may actually tell you what a slave you are, and that there's absolutely nothing that you can do to circumvent the situation.
See, that's exactly.
We're in the shit now.
That's exactly what happened to me. The first thing that happened was I got pissed off, and that's what led to that Facebook rant I was talking about earlier.
Precisely, and that's what Eric saw. As I'm shouting, I'm screaming about stuff. And he's like, "Seriously? You're gonna get yourself killed?" And I'm like, "I don't care. I've been killed before. Do it again." Right? As a cowardly lion. Do it again. I don't care. I was happy when I was dead.
You would make for a great skateboarder. You should have grown up skateboarding. That's the kind of mentality.
I did actually. I rode bikes. I exercised all the time. When I was in Lake Havasu, I walked 2 miles because Durrell said he had 6 exotic cars there. But mysteriously, after he calls me up after 40 years and I haven't seen him, and I fly out there to see him, there's no cars there. So he goes back to California. And he's with John, and I don't even know that these guys know each other. That's how erased I was.
Wow.
It's bad. You continually get erased over and over and over and over again. He took me on a tour of California. I lived there for 30 years, and I forgot it.
And that's why you need to write a book. You need to write books, plural, and
Who's
keep
going to publish it?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, hold on.
Nobody. Well, it does.
Hold on. Time out. Let me jump in real quick.
Verify anything.
No,
remember you said earlier in the show that you met me for a reason. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah.
I think I personally think, and I'm not volunteering this, but I think I'm going to be your link to your publisher for your book. That's what I think.
I'm
projecting that.
Yes, exact. Yeah, honest. And
do you feel me on that one, Gigi?
I feel you, and honestly, that is my number one. That's my number one thing. I feel like I should suggest to you is I think you should write a book, and it doesn't matter who reads it. It doesn't matter if anybody reads it. It's for you, and here's why. Especially in your situation, like you said, you keep getting erased, and it keeps getting erased. Well, what if you? That's why you need to write everything down and put these books somewhere and leave yourself clues as to where you put it, so that whenever, if you do get erased again and you come back, and you make your way back somewhere, you see one of these clues, it's going to trigger one of those memories, and then you can actually and eventually find your way back to a book that you wrote of your previous memories and be able to recall them. You follow me?
For some reason, I think I'm not going to get erased again because they brought me back for a reason, and I've been prophesying, and the big pastors know about it too. And I'm telling you that the White House knows about me. For some reason, they want me to talk. And I keep saying, Bob says, hey, write. I say, Bob, no, I'm not writing because David was murdered. He wrote about all this. He wrote about the vast global conspiracy. X-Files tells everybody the same thing. And my question was, when I found the man by the same name as my brother, Michael Dwayne Fortner, he wrote 5 books. He studied prophecy and revelations for 35 years. And he writes about the global conspiracy. It's page 17. I write him back. I email him. I say, Mike, why aren't you dead?
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And you know what else? There's certainly no coincidence that they're putting out. Look at the last year of movies that have come out, and now look at the X-Files is coming out now right after the first ever real disclosure by the government of the Pentagon program.
And it's speaking directly to me. It's speaking to me because I tweeted out to some of those guys, and I was pissed. I was pissed at David Duchovny. Now, I know it's not rational, but I was pissed at him because my husband looked like David Duchovny, and I look like Jillian. And I
actually think you're cuter than Jillian, by the way.
Thank you. she's awful cute though. I don't know if we're the same age or not.
I think she's a little younger, but she looks like me. She prefers women, I hear.
Really?
You didn't know that?
Nope, I didn't. But
anyway.
She's engendered one way. We're all engendered one way.
Yeah,
and it could actually be, I sincerely believe that particular asset that's attributed to an individual probably is assigned by a gene.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And you know what? We've got just a few minutes here before I run out of recording time on here. Now, so what are your plans for, like normally when you're not in that facility, I know you've had a lot of turbulent last few months.
Without a home.
Yes.
I lived in my car, and I traveled across the U.S. Wherever I go, I'm followed. And I was talking to my friend George, and I told George, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to find a way out of here because they take all of my money. So I have to figure out a way to get out of here and to secure some employment somewhere. I mean, I just wanted to be a hermit and go somewhere and just write, because my husband put me on disability. So they take all of that money and here, and they give me $30. So I can't go anywhere. I don't have money for gas. I can't move forward anywhere. I need to get ahead like one somewhere where I can rent a place and then actually start moving forward. And I can't even sing now because I can't get my microphones that are still at my husband's house, because when I left and I fled because he cracked my ribs open, I'd go to the doctor and I'm like, hey, I just want to make sure I don't bleed out on my way out. Who even says that, right? And so when I finally drag my leg behind me, get in the car and drive to my brother's, and my brother tells me it had to be your decision, right? Because then they play me. They put me in play again. I don't know why, but I can't even go back there. I don't have enough money to actually go back there and go to the house and get my microphones and my PAs because I was a musician forever.
Now that
can I this is important. I need to interject real quick. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So this is my prophecy for you. Okay, because Gigi and the Rev are starting up a band here pretty soon. I heard. Is that correct, Gigi?
Well, we're gonna collaborate on some projects. Yes.
Okay, so let's project that Penny just moves to Sedona, and she could be the female.
Sedona? That hurts.
Yep. You don't want to go to Sedona?
I will go to Sedona. I know I was erased there, but, perhaps I can find out why I was erased. And I was actually erased by a girl who said she was a prophet named O.
Interesting.
That's actually really interesting.
The story of O.
Okay, now one other thing I wanted to say, and this is in my research that goes very deep, is that there's only 2 people that I've ever researched that have literally lived as long as you have lived and Kathy O'Brien in the MKUltra program, because it's very rare do MKUltra monarchs live this to your age. Mike, what would you say about that?
I'm told because when John had me sing Vogue, now when I'm on the road, I'm analyzing everything, and everybody in that rap is dead, and they were also MKUltras, and they also studied under method acting. I researched every single one of them. Greta Garbo, Anne Monroe, Dietrich and DiMaggio, Marlon Brando, Jimmy Dean on the cover of a magazine, Grace Kelly, Harlow Jean, picture of a beauty queen, Jean Kelly, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Dance on Air. They had style. They had grace. Rita Hayworth gave good face. Lauren, Catherine, Lana too. Betty Davis, We Love You. Ladies with an attitude. Fellas that were in the mood. Don't just stand there. Let's get to it. Strike a pose. There's nothing to it. That whole thing about Vogue, that's German. And every single person in that rap is dead.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm not.
Man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Alive.
That's
and
why.
That particular song, my brother was, my older brother was there, my sister was there, my father was there. My father never saw anything I ever did in my life, and it was at the Marriott in San Diego, the Mission Valley Marriott in San Diego, when John represented me.
Wow. Now
it was historic.
Now, real quick. Now, where did you say that? What city is all of your equipment stored in? Where do you need to get to?
It's in San Diego.
San Diego.
It's in San Diego. I can't care, and I don't even know. Right now, my stepson was the one. He said, "I love you," and he said he stayed away from me. He said, "I saw what my dad did." And he stayed away from his dad. And that side of the family, I'll just say this, they're evil.
So.
And the Hitlers are in my family too.
Oh my goodness.
I know, and it's not enough, right? I mean, let's just add this onto this, onto this, onto this, onto this, and and I'm looking at my background. I almost married the son of Albert Spears, and I still like him. He's cute and he's funny.
Well, you know what?
And I still like John.
Well, you know what? With all of that said, at the very least, and really there's more than that, is you have learned more about this reality that we live in one lifetime than the next person will in 10 lifetimes.
Beautifully said, Gigi. Beautifully said.
And so much so that it's so much that it might just sound like a bunch of hogwash to the average person out there. That's how much more you've learned and how much progress you've made.
Right now, the people that I talk to, and I've enjoyed this conversation immensely, because the people that I talk to, like on Instagram or whatever, they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, okay. And they're like, "Are you married? Do you have children?" And I'm like, "Hey, I don't want to talk about that crap." And then they're like, "What's your favorite color?" I'm like, "Oh my God, seriously, get off my Instagram." Right? Have a little bit of acumen. And then I'm here with these people that are just, oh my God, they are insane. And I can't talk to anybody. I can't discuss these things. I say to my friends, you know what? If I get married again, it's going to have to be a nuclear physicist and a musician, and he's going to have to be like a friggin' Einstein Tesla that plays music.
At least.
We get a super soldier custom made for you, right out of Japan.
We'll see what we can whip together.
We'll get them out of
Could you
Japan.
look around
They're
for
building
me?
them in
Could you
Japan
find
right
somebody
now.
that will actually, I don't have to support anymore, right? Somebody that I don't have to, like my ex, I worked 2 jobs and went to school and helped him raise his kids, and he was a retired police officer and he never worked.
Oh, my goodness.
Except for the CIA and MKUltra.
Oh, my goodness. Man. Wow. What?
I know. That's Gigi. Everything she's
funny,
saying,
I'm funny,
everything she says.
I'm talented. You know, I'm a good cook, too.
Oh, there you go. You got to have that. Got to have that.
And since January 6th, I'm single.
All right. Well, here's my number. No.
You're too young for me. You got to be a little bit older.
That depends on your definition of young, doesn't it?
Okay,
You missed that conversation on the air, Gigi.
I'm 59, but I kind of like look at people that are 20 years younger like they're babies. But you're not. You're really smart, and I like you a lot.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And now, okay, so we've got just a couple minutes left before we wrap this up. Is there anything you want to give out? Now, I know a lot of the big boy shows have come on, so to speak. So it's late night talk radio hours. So Roger says he loves you and he has to go, but thanks for coming on and he loves you. So and everybody,
I love him too.
Yeah, and the chat was popping tonight. The chat was popping, that's for sure. And Dan James, it's good to see you again, brother. Thanks for everybody that showed up. Now, real quick though, just for anybody that would, do you have any social media accounts that you want to give out, or any websites that you have that you'd like to promote, or anything?
My Twitter is Shepard Out. I asked John to mentor me, and of course he said yes, really, seriously. So I started Shepard Entertainment Endeavors, which the acronym is really, seriously, it's C, which I actually do see now. I could probably open up a psychic shop, right?
Ah, there you go.
Sounds that way.
Make money off of that, but, I don't actually foresee us making money off of prophets of doom,
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Oh, and
go on.
Oh no, you go ahead. Finish. Anything else you want to give out?
My email address is shepardentertainment@gmail. I'm on Facebook. Anybody who wants to Facebook me, and please don't be calling me and saying, "What's the favorite color?" I won't respond. I'm just saying, I won't. Okay.
So we've got
if anybody wants to talk to me, feel free to give my information to anyone that you think needs to have it.
All right, definitely, yeah, and let's definitely stay in touch. And I'm actually, we're all going to be out there. Let's see. Now, what part of the country are you in right now?
I'm in an undisclosed location, but I'm kind of near Chicago.
Oh, okay. Well,
and guess what? I'm from Southern California, and I really don't like Chicago.
I imagine.
Arizona's calling.
Calling. It's a town town. By the way, Durrell lives in Arizona, and I think he's actually going to end up being mayor.
Oh, that's right.
Jesus.
Real quick, I want to get this out to the audience. Now, who was that you mentioned, Eric, that posts all those tweets about the patents? What's his Twitter handle?
I'll put it on the hashtag shift happens. Is that what it is?
Let's just do hashtag shift heads for now, because that's what the audience.
I don't have it in front of me right now, but it's RJ Tannenbaugh, and anyway, I'll send you some tweets, and then you can post them on your own, and then everybody will know. This guy's done brilliant research. Anytime I hear these fantastical stories, I go and look for the science, I look for the evidence, and a lot of this stuff is provable. But people don't realize it is provable. This is not just a bunch of fucking hearsay that we're hearing tonight.
Right. But my problem is that, like a good conspiracy, I have no pictures of anything. And apparently I have no pictures of anything because I actually see things in the pictures. And the people talk to me and tell me things just by looking at the picture. So they've availed me. And you'll talk to Kathy O'Brien. I think the same situation happened to her. I've been disengaged and disabled from the workforce. So you take somebody that's on Social Security disability, and now you've taken them out of the realm of anybody that thinks that you're important or that will actually listen to you. So how do I get engaged again into the workforce?
Well, here's your start right here. Get yourself exposed to the world this way, and you're right. There are, if people don't think so, man, you really need to start paying attention. They do communicate. It's in plain sight. It's right in front of you. You're looking at it all day. You're seeing it on the magazine. You're seeing it on TV. There are messages being put out there for those that know how to perceive them, and that is the truth. You better believe that, son. And with that, we do got to get out of here. So we got just a couple minutes left here before it kicks us off. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Penny. We really appreciate it. And stay on the line. We're going to talk after the show as well. And thanks again, Eric, for setting this up and making this happen. And
yes, thank you both, gentlemen. I've enjoyed this immensely.
Beautiful.
Thank you so very, very much for the opportunity to speak with both of you, to speak with somebody that I can actually have a conversation with.
Absolutely. The pleasure's all ours. The pleasures are ours. And with that, we are going to boogie on out of here. For the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens, and we'll be back here. We'll be back tomorrow with Michael Cramo, the forbidden archaeologist himself. And with that, don't go too far, because coming up next, well, not next, because we're not the usual time, but Spaced Out Radio is coming on tonight on the Fringe FM. Don't miss it. We'll see you next week. Cheers.